He's like the Naked Gun guy watching Platoon and just
I'm
dead inside.
Yeah.
This is hilarious.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
What up?
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Scher.
Hello there.
Exciting podcast today,
Yeah.
guys. We got some guests today from the Modern Horrors podcast.
Yeah.
We have Luke Rodriguez over here in the corner who's going to blow away all of our voices throughout this entire thing. I am jealous of your voice, Luke Rodriguez.
Man. No. I mean, I was just thinking about the fella next to me. I mean, that's a voice for radio right there. It's a face for radios as well. But
You saved it.
So yeah, what you're saying is we've got two voices we're going to be like jealous of all the way through
this side of the
thing.
room is just stacked.
Anyway, Luke Rodriguez's partner in crime on Modern Horrors is Jacob Hopkins.
Yeah.
What's up? At least I have the beard to envy in the room.
Oh,
So,
my
there it
God.
is. Sorry,
That's a
Barry.
good one.
Sorry.
Jacob has the best beard in the world.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I'm in a good position, too, because I have Jacob on my left and Luke on my right, and I am the meat in the Modern Horror sandwich.
That is
Sexy
correct.
meat.
That's what we've always wanted to be. It's what we've aspired to do. But first off, we're going to continue with the series of best of the years we've been alive, and we're going to do 2001 today.
Donkey! Are you listening to me?
Yes, I am! I think you're having a nervous breakdown.
Hello, Clarice. Classes will dull your mind, destroy the potential for authentic creativity.
Mr. Potter, our new celebrity. I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
You shall not pass!
Yeah.
2001, not a great year at
No.
all.
This year actually pissed me off.
Yeah. 2001 is a bad year for a lot of reasons, but movies were not very good in this year at all. So do we want to start off with Best Picture, A Beautiful Mind here?
Sure.
I never have liked this movie.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
you do hate, like, mentally disabled people.
That's one
that might be
part
part
of
of
it.
what-
That's one part of it. Like I could not get through. I could not get through There's Something About Mary because of that. It was so awful.
Oh,
they're
yeah, A
similar
Beautiful
films.
Mind. I saw it once, and that was probably too many times for me. I don't hate it, but it bored me.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
bored you?
Yeah.
Oh, man. I like this movie a lot. Now, it's
Just
not...
because you like math. Maybe that's it.
I do like math,
All right.
and I actually had the opportunity to meet the real John Nash. When this premiered, he had actually come down to Nashville to do a premiere. I don't know if it was the premiere. And I was working at the psychiatric hospital at Vanderbilt at the time, and I was running a group, and all of a sudden, John fucking Nash walks in to the unit. So I took him on a tour of the unit and showed him one of the rooms, and at Vanderbilt,
Took him
they've
on a
got...
tour of your unit.
Oh, yeah. No, that happened. But at Vanderbilt, they've got nice rooms and everything, and he was in these like state facilities where they were doing awful things to him. And I was like, here's our thing. It's got a bathroom and everything. He's like, it's a hell of a lot better than what I experienced.
Oh, my
I was
God.
like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Moving on. But no, I actually like the movie. I think they get schizophrenia really, really right. John Nash actually just died a couple years ago, not of any disease or anything. He died in a taxi car wreck.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
With his wife in New York. But it's Russell Crowe's performance is amazing. Ed Harris is amazing. Paul Bettany is really great, and Jennifer Connelly. I think it's a well-constructed movie. It's not great, but I think it's really good and really accurate with the content.
Yeah,
Use promo code NASH for 10% off your next Uber ride, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you think it's so popular? Do you think it's popular because it was based on a true story?
I think Barrett liked it because he met the guy in real life.
Yeah,
a little skewed.
I mean, he's right. There are great performances in this. I think there's a letdown in the real story in that his all the stuff that he's doing with the numbers actually isn't leading to something that's like what he thinks it is. Like there's some sort of...
No, I see what you mean.
I know that's not fair at all. It's
Yeah.
not fair at all. but it feels like it's a letdown. We are let down as well as he is once, we find out that all of this is like not really.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also hard to condense game theory into like a profitable movie too.
You're right.
Which may be where you stop and go, why are we making this movie, right?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, it is such an amazing story. I mean, this guy won the fucking Nobel Prize while being actively psychotic.
Well, yeah. And Russell Crowe was at the height of his popularity here. He'd just come off Gladiator. I think a lot of this movie's popularity was just him. He was a big draw. Yeah. Ron Howard was a bigger draw at this point than I think he has become today.
Yeah, he had just done The Grinch the year before. We didn't talk about The Grinch last time. How did we miss that?
Yeah.
But it's one of his biggest hits of all time is The Grinch, and then he does this right after that. And Ron Howard's always been that type of director for me, where it's just been like he's never been terrible. He's never been great. Like a couple of times he's been great.
Yeah.
But most of those movies are just kind of like in the middle for me. And
he's great in that Jamie Foxx video, Blame It on the Alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
my favorite
performance.
Absolutely great in Arrested Development.
Yeah. Oh, he's that's some of his best work.
And that one show, Happy Days.
Yeah.
Awesome on that show.
And Andy Griffith's show.
Yeah,
while
he's
we're
had
at
a hell of
it.
a career.
Yeah.
He has. Like, you can't. That dude works, man. He's been busting tail for 50-some years. All right, let's move on because we've already spent too much time on a beautiful
Absolutely. This was a huge year for the fantasy genre because we had both Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone for everybody else in the fucking world.
If you're in an educated country.
Yeah, that's right.
If you're an American.
Well, of course, when we did this Sins video, we pissed so many people off. By I think we had a strike through on philosophers. Like Sorcerers is the real name.
We have a good track record pissing off the British.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
we do. But that came out, and Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. But Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. What do we think about the good start to the franchise? Right?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I like about the Harry Potter franchise in general. Now, I'm one of those people who never read the books, so I don't carry any baggage into that. But I feel like it ages along with its characters. So the episodes, the movies began to get a little darker as he got older. And I really enjoyed that they were able to do that. And this first one is just pretty much pure, wholesome, wand-waving fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a little kid. I don't go back to that first one very much, but I remember thinking it was well done. It was a good introduction.
Yeah, it's nowhere near the other ones that come out later. Right. Like this is introductory. This is beginner's Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a really pretty movie, and what a trailer! That trailer was amazing when they had the Great Hall and all the candles up there, and the score. Man, that's one of my all-time favorite.
Great theme,
themes.
Really great theme that has been well used. All 8 movies, lots of variations, excellent music. I'm a big fan of the movies in general.
Yeah.
A lot of people think I'm not, I guess because of the Sins videos.
Yeah.
But if I'm flipping past Order of the Phoenix and I know it's anywhere near the last 20 minutes,
Order of Phoenix,
parking that
especially
shit right
that part, Luke, Jacob, what do you guys think, Harry Potter?
Man, so I read all the books. In 1 week, I was suffering from pneumonia or some shit, so I just powered through all of them. And her writing does get better, so I feel like the movies do parallel that as they get better. But so did her writing. And I mean, I'm not the biggest... I am a huge fantasy nerd, so right here in my pocket. But I wasn't the biggest Harry Potter fan, but it's awesome. It's cool. And I'm like you. I'll stop if there's something on. Definitely the later ones, not really so much the early ones.
This may be as good a time as any to get in another jab at the Harry Potter world at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida, which is a giant waste of space, in my opinion. You either want to stand in line for 3 hours to ride a roller coaster, yay, or you're walking past 90% of what you see in that park is just a facade. There's no store there. It just looks like Harry Potter World, and I paid $60 to get in there. And then they give you butterbeer, which is basically a diabetic coma in a cup. I hated Harry Potter World. I hated the regular... I'm sorry, Universal. I like your movies okay, but the theme parks really didn't do it for me.
Well, I got to tell you, you're doing it wrong, okay? So what you got to do, and I swear to God, I've done this before, me and my brother, you got to get a cane, okay? That's step 1. You get a cane.
I like where this is going.
And or rascal, okay?
Chris is already hating you, though.
You get these. You go to customer service in the little hut in the middle of the park, if you will, and you have some sort of limp, right? And then you say, you have this medical condition where you physically cannot stand in line, right? My brother's a chubby guy. He's got weight problems. He can't stand here for 6 fucking hours. You want him to die in your park? No. So what they do is they give you this pass to where you go in the exit of the ride, and you don't have to wait for a fucking thing because you got an obese boy.
But I have to lisp all goddamn day.
Yeah. And step 2, you got to have an obese friend. But if you have those two things.
This is like the prestige level of commitment to your trick.
No
right?
kidding.
You're like the old Chinese guy with the water between his legs. You live your trick when you do this.
You have to want it. You have to want it.
Yeah, I don't want it that bad.
Okay, well.
Yeah, this is a plan that starts well beyond the parking lot.
I can take a 2-hour drive and hit a Six Flags and ride a roller coaster if I really care.
Me and my brother are 12 and he's like 17. Like we're fucking storyboarding this like in my mom's room before we go to Six Flags or something. Like we would do this every time we went somewhere. And it worked every single time.
Yeah, because you're preying on the basic decency of people.
Fuck yeah.
No, I'm complimenting you. I'm not criticizing you.
Stick it to those fuckers at Universal. That's what it is. Let's talk about Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the
Oh
Ring.
yeah, we got to talk about
That's
Lord
not
of the
Universal, but it's New Line Cinema, which
And-
somehow made all 3 of these movies and then went bankrupt like a few years later.
Seriously.
Like that comes to show.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened?
Yeah.
You got to have Fellowship, in my opinion, to have anything that comes after it.
Mhm.
But it holds none of the action that you get in 2 and 3.
Yeah.
But what it lacks in action, I think it makes up for in world building and character building and just flat out charm.
Yeah.
Like, what a home run they hit casting these 4 hobbits, right? I mean, the rest of the cast is great, but you picked 4 people, you committed to 3-hour movies with these people and 9 years of film. If you'd have picked one of them wrong, right, you get a canoe in there on accident, and the whole trilogy's fucked.
And no names, really. I mean,
Elijah Wood
Sean
was a
Astin
name.
may have been like
Flipper.
And Sean Astin had faded. The other 2 weren't names
Yeah,
yet.
no.
But they became them afterwards.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I always remark at like how much work you can see being done in the movie itself. Like there's just every shot, there's no waste in it. And yeah, it's 3 hours long. For some people, it's all waste. But like, if you enjoy, this type of thing, it's every shot is beautiful and well constructed and everything like that. It's such a far cry from what he would do later with The Hobbit. Peter Jackson.
Watch your mouth. It's awful.
Yeah, Peter Jackson just obviously didn't want to do those movies, and I think that there's been more than enough evidence of that after those movies came out. But in these, he's all in.
Yeah,
He is absolutely all in. And you look at the DVDs and stuff that came out on this, like over 72 days of footage that you haven't seen before.
I have watched those 72 days of footage multiple times. This is literally one of my favorite films. I love it. I love it more than the next 2, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is that world building and everything was real. It wasn't CG like we did see in The Hobbit later. But even just so the way the scenes are put together, like constantly from 3.5 hours later, everyone's moved from left to right of the screen the whole damn time. I mean, just little things like that really kind of put you in place with them.
Yeah. I love this as well. Great movie. Also in 2001, sort of along these lines, Donnie Darko came out in 2001.
You want to talk about a movie that no one can explain, and I don't care what they say. They're all confused in some level when you're done, but what an enjoyable experience, especially first time out when you don't know anything about this. You just know, okay, I recognize that face, and it's an indie film. Let's give it a shot. And you don't know what's coming. Holy shit, that's a ride.
Yeah, I've had that experience trying to explain this movie to many people. I don't think I know the exact answer, but I do love the fact that it seems to create a time paradox.
Right.
And that's basically what it comes down to. Now, what actually does that all entail and all the details? Am I getting all that right? Probably not. There's probably a lot of stuff that I'm messing up on that. But yeah, such an interesting movie and such an interesting look at time travel itself.
And ahead of its time in the fact that it just roasts like pageant gymnastic dancing culture well before we get toddlers and tiaras and dance moms and all that shit on TV. This movie sets it all afire.
Yeah. A great use of Tears for Fears, too.
Yeah.
That's one of the best montages of going from scene to scene, and it's character development with this head over heels things playing in the background. Then you go to the cheerleaders, and you go to Donnie Darko, and you go to Patrick. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love how it flows and the atmosphere and the tone that it has in this movie. I saw it on DVD later on, which I think is where it got most of its audience.
Yeah,
it certainly
definitely.
wasn't a huge hit.
Yep.
And everybody that watched it was just, of course, everybody's trying to explain it and say like, "Oh, this is totally what it means."
Yeah.
What? No.
Yeah, yeah. This is Jake Gyllenhaal's sort of I don't know if it's his breakout, because not like you said, not very many people saw it.
Yeah.
It would take a few years before Gyllenhaal actually broke out. But this is both him and his sister Maggie Gyllenhaal in the same movie. And also I'll never get this name right, but Dave Chase, who was in the Ring, the girl in the little creepy girl in the Ring. She's Samara. There you go. Anyway, what else in 2001, guys?
Well, I think we should probably talk a little bit about State and Maine.
Yes.
It got its theatrical release the second week of January of this year.
Yeah.
Somebody was yelling at me on Twitter that we didn't talk about it last year.
And right after we were done last week, Barrett and I both went, how did we not talk about State and Maine after all that time we've been trumping that movie up? I feel the same way about 1998 and Zero Effect and didn't say anything about that. But State and Maine did have an official release in 2001. We can talk about it.
Yeah, and we have talked about it. You guys should know by now that we love this movie. And what else is there to say? I was thinking today about the scene where he realizes that she doesn't show her breasts; she showed them to him. And how many times somebody in the movie says it's about purity, and how that juxtaposes against all these filthy mouth Hollywood execs, right? Because you got the old doctor walking by, "Hi, Cindy, how's that arm? It itches. Well, that means it's healing." And it's such a picturesque little landscape. And then he goes, "How are you getting along with these folks?" And he goes, "Like dykes and dogs." They're dirty Hollywood, opposite of purity. And then you've got the girl and the writer who are sort of really pure of heart. It just deals with a lot of fun themes, but it's not trying to be a deep movie. It's just how did this movie get missed? I don't understand how it got this cast and then just got overlooked.
It's hard to market a David Mamet though. It's just the way it is. It's and it's not like a movie. These big huge cast movies about movies rarely do anything.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't really. I think you could have blown out the marketing on this and nobody would have gone to see it, unfortunately.
It's so funny to look back in hindsight at the cast, though.
Huge.
You could put a movie out with this cast, you'd think you'd be able to sell it alone just on the names. Sarah Jessica Parker, Alec Baldwin, William H. Macy, Julia Stiles. That's 4, and there's 12 other ones.
Yeah.
You were talking about your favorite car crash from Wonder Boys, where you had that
my God.
direct left, and this one has one of the best ones ever, where they have that terrible crash, and Alec Baldwin's like, "Well, that happened."
Yeah.
You need to get her out of here.
Yeah.
The girls stand
Well,
up.
and David Paymer is probably one of his best performances too, because he's usually just the guy who's always getting screwed. Look at David Paymer's career, Get Shorty and Ocean's 13 and all these movies. He's always the guy getting screwed. He's the asshole producer in this one.
Yeah,
he's really funny in it. But also, since we were talking about Donnie Darko earlier, another movie that a lot of people have a hard time explaining, Mulholland Drive, came out.
Yeah. This is Lynch, right?
It's David Lynch.
Yeah. I have a hard time with his movies. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in college, one of my favorite things to say to try and sound smart was that Michael Stipe just wrote nonsense down instead of lyrics, because you listen to some of the REM lyrics back in the day. It was like he was just intentionally trying to see if anyone was paying attention. I feel like that's kind of like David Lynch movies to me. He's just it's I'm going to fuck with you for a couple hours, and you're going to feel weird when you get out. And that's just not an experience that I enjoy. That's not something I go looking for.
There is a sort of a key to this movie, and actually I don't study this movie that often, but there is the whole section that is just a dream, and then a whole bunch of other stuff is real, and you have to figure out exactly where those breaks are. It's not like he just lays out a map for you.
Yeah, it's like he got progressively more vague after Blue Velvet came out.
Yeah.
And more and more atmospheric, except for A Straight Story, which was crazy.
Yeah.
Just a weird entry in his catalog.
Right.
But this is very atmospheric, more so probably than Lost Highway. And a great soundtrack, too. They've got a great use of Roy Orbison's crying in this song.
Yeah.
And Angelo Badalamenti did the score, which he did for Lost Highway, too, which is an epic score.
And
Naomi Watts, really?
Yeah.
Really
This is her
first
breakout.
big hit for her.
And probably known to many, many people for Naomi Watts and Laura Herring's lesbian scene, which is, Let's talk about that for
Let's sketch it out over here.
It's literally the only part I remember.
5 hours later.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't even remember there was any. I do always confuse this movie with Mulholland Falls.
Yeah.
Which is that shitty Chaz Palminteri.
Yeah, Jennifer Connelly, Nick Nolte. Yeah, all
Nick
that.
Nolte.
Yeah.
It's like a Hollywood 50s mobster. They go up on Mulholland Drive and throw bodies off, and that's the Mulholland Falls.
Yeah.
Don't watch that movie.
Yeah.
What else in 2001, guys?
How about Training Day?
Yeah, man.
How about Training
Glad
Day?
somebody said it.
Glad
somebody said it.
Man, this is a shocking performance.
Yes.
This is a shocking performance from Denzel. I mean, we'd seen him go broad and we'd seen him be a badass, but this is like a whole different level for this guy.
He is evil, man.
Yeah.
He is evil.
He is evil.
King Kong ain't got shit on me.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's beautiful though. It's so magnetic to watch. And Ethan Hawke is really like the perfect foil for him. He's kind of he's got a great track record and everything. I don't always like what he's in and like his performances, but he runs up against him so perfectly in this.
Oh, and it's Denzel is so charismatic in this that you completely understand why Ethan Hawke, even though he has red flags here and there, it's that first 30 minutes like smoke these drugs.
Yeah.
You
like to get
kind of
wet?
get why he would do it. Like Denzel also kind of talks you into it, right? Are you a wolf? Come on.
Primo.
And I love this movie so much. It has one of the most ridiculous coincidence ex machinas
Yes, it does.
in all time.
Absolutely.
But you know,
Well, and also here's the other thing, and we sort of made fun of this with the outtakes in Training Day when we did the Sins video for this, but the whole like King Kong ain't got shit on me scene feels like comedy more than like actual serious drama. Even though he's really good and he's hitting all the high notes, and we love Denzel. Man, and in the Sins video, we put a laugh track to everything that he said.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Like his head's bobbing everywhere.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Like he's going way over the top with
Yeah,
it.
he's going around shoe program and all that. You know, it's like it's just funnier to me than anything. But
Well, you mentioned Ocean's 13, and Soderbergh followed up his 2000 of Traffic Aaron Brockovich with Ocean's 11 in 2001, which, of course, I just read more news last night about this Ocean's 8 all-female remake. I have
Luke
I have
is
building
right.
anger about this, but anyway, Ocean's 11 still plays like gold to me. I don't have any problem with that.
Guaranteed, by the way, Ocean's 8, they're going to have some joke in there with only takes 8 women to do this.
Yeah.
You know, that.
Yeah.
We can expect that. Anyway, but Ocean's 11 is fantastic.
It is, and I think maybe one of the more underrated pieces of score ever in terms of how it drives that film's action.
Yeah.
It's got its own subgenre. If you go to any like stock music site to license a generic track and search Oceans, you're going to find tracks that sound like this movie. I've done it. And it spawned this whole subgenre of a style of music. God, I love this movie. I love the way it's cut. I love all the performances. I love even fucking Scott Conn and Casey Affleck try their damnedest to piss me off, but it doesn't happen. I'll take it.
Well, and I think they're really funny in Ocean's 13 because they go down to Mexico and all that.
Yeah. Become
And
part of the
they
revolution.
become the revolution and all that. Oh my God, it's so great. But this is just a fun heist movie, man. I mean, it's so ludicrous, but it's so fun ludicrous, you know, like, once we ever finally send this, it's going to be like, there's going to be like 60 sins on the heist itself.
And it's not about, I mean, it's more about wrangling the job he did wrangling that cast. Because talk about names. I mean, that's just a ridiculous. It's like Matt Damon is like the tertiary character.
Yeah.
Like, what? Hold on one second. Well, speaking of big casts, the Royal Tenenbaums came out. And that's really Wes Anderson. It was the follow-up to Rushmore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And was a huge cast and a great cast. Angelica Houston and Gene Hackman and, Luke Wilson and Gwyneth Paltrow and everything. I love this movie. I know it's really where it starts to get super cutesy for Wes Anderson. Yeah. But it's before, to me at least, it gets too tired. And I think it's I can watch this any time of the day.
It's interesting. I like that movie. It's going to sound here in a second like I don't, but I just watched Rushmore 2 days ago. It was on one of the movie channels. I hadn't seen it in 5 or 6 years. There's none of that in there. There's none of that. I mean, whatever he's doing with his camera tricks and symmetry and color, the cutesy stuff, it's so subtle in Rushmore because the characters are so strong. And then you come over to the Royal Tenenbaums, and I feel like his visual game gets super strong, and the characters kind of suffer because of it and get a little one-dimensional.
They're all blank. I mean, Gwyneth Paltrow, by design. Gwyneth Paltrow's character, Bill Murray's character, like, they're all just, like, even Ben Stiller's a little more outlandish, but, like, there's a lot of, like, blank canvases for this beautiful cinematic universe to fit onto, I guess.
Yeah, it's not my favorite Wes Anderson movie at all, but I don't hate it.
Well, and recently some stories came out about how Gene Hackman was such a dick on the set, too. I think we all love Gene Hackman and everything, but I can just imagine him just being surly on that set and just telling all these young bucks what's
with all the tweed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think Wes Anderson has come out to say, he's had his moments and everything, but he was a delight to work with and all that. And of course he's going to say that, but that's an interesting thing if you can find it.
I wonder if any of that channeled into his performance because he's kind of a dick. In that movie.
Totally. Yeah.
Huge cartoons came out in 2001. Shrek first off, and then Monsters Inc. also came out in 2001. Shrek is a movie that I still don't quite understand the huge love for it. I guess I kind of do because it did take the fairy tale and it blew it out of the water. Like we don't kowtow to that type of stupid ass storytelling around here at DreamWorks. We're gonna shit and fart and all that, and that was like we're
gonna use Smash Mouth.
We're gonna use Smash Mouth. Fuck them. And it sets the tone for what every DreamWorks cartoon comes out after it. It's all like knowing wink wink pop culture jokes.
Yeah.
Toilet humor is huge. I mean, when we just seen this movie, like I could not believe I remembered it having some, but not like all the way through it.
Yeah, well, the first 5 minutes is like half of it is shit and fart jokes.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad movie. It's just that I don't get the huge. I mean, I guess I do get the huge appeal of it, but I never was a part of it.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys think of Shrek, guys?
Man, Luke, go.
I love Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
So,
he is fantastic.
Eddie Murphy as a donkey is a fucking dream come true in some weird way for me. It really worked well. As far as the movie itself, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. It didn't do anything for me. You got the Puss in Boots spinoffs eventually.
Yeah.
Those didn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Just the universe as a whole. No,
right.
Not really.
Yeah, and these movies get progressively worse too. I mean, yeah.
And I'll be honest, man, I think as like someone that spends so much time in the horror bubble, like I think I'm kind of broken as a human being because like I'm so used to feeling nothing that like when I watched My Dog Skip the other day and I started fucking crying at the end.
Yeah.
And like Monsters Inc. that you mentioned before, like I'm tearing up at the end of that one. So like I'm a big pussy when it comes to anything that elicits any kind of real emotion just because like I feel nothing but hate and blood, all day, every day. But Shrek couldn't even extrapolate that out of me, which means something,
Right.
He's like the Naked Gun guy watching Platoon and just
Yeah.
dead inside. Yeah. This is hilarious.
I have to work with the psychopath, so.
Yeah. The Monsters Inc. also came out in this year, and this is Pixar's third feature at this point. It's kind of hard to believe that only after 6 years they only had 3 years because 3 movies. Because they come out with one every year from now. So, but they at the point of 2001, this was their third one, and it was a monster hit. I wasn't trying to get the pun there. Wasn't trying. Honestly, wasn't. I almost stopped myself, but you all knew what I was about to say.
I saw the twinkle in your eye. I was there.
Yeah. But that was it was a huge hit. And what do you guys think about Monster Inc?
Oh yeah, me and Luke saw this like at least 100 times, right? We used to work at an electronics store, and that would be playing all the time on the high-end TVs to sell it.
I can't imagine.
But like somehow it never got old. It never got old.
Really?
Yeah, we would just you'd walk by and you just stop and you're like, oh yeah. 15 minutes later, you're like, shit, I got to do work.
Yeah. Well, Monsters Inc. is definitely helped by one of the most adorable little girls like they've ever thrown into a movie. Like it's like an impossibly adorable little girl. Keeps going around, kitty.
I honestly think that sells that movie in people's hearts more than the film itself.
Yeah.
Like I think the film is fun. But I think they will go on with Finding Nemo and Incredibles and WALL-E and Up to have a lot more punch and emotional weight to what they're trying to do. But I don't really have anything bad to say about Monsters, Inc.
Let's talk about a couple of horror movies now that we've got our modern horrors
That
cast.
seems like a logical idea.
Indeed.
It was not a good year.
It was not.
No.
So we're going to talk about
There's a
Moulin
couple.
Rouge
There's
then?
a couple
we're gonna
good
talk
ones.
about
There's a
But,
couple.
well, one that I thought was good is The Others.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That one's got a nice, you are sort of like, what's going on here? What's going on? It has a great ending to it. But yeah, that was one that came out of nowhere for me. Like, I didn't think that was going to be good at all.
Well, and it's been completely forgotten, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Sixth Sense was such a huge film that it left this wake for 2 or 3 years in this genre where Stir of Echoes and The Others and all these movies that are really good just couldn't get anybody's attention off of The Sixth Sense. I think The Others is outstanding.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe even an A+. But I feel like outside of the guys in this room, I may not know anybody that's seen it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that seems like it's kind of been lost to time, right?
Yeah.
You don't really hear people talk about this movie often, really, do you?
I mean, you don't really hear people talk about it, but it's one of those movies. While it may not have been like a rousing success whenever it came out, but it's one of those horror movies that went on to impact so many other horror movies that came out.
Yeah.
Like the tricks that are used in there and the whole idea behind it, like those elements were borrowed by newcomers in the genre, people that have been around forever, and injected into their future movies. So even if it wasn't seen by a lot of people, it really impacted the entire genre for still, really.
Yeah.
Would
yeah.
you say it impacted The Others?
Ooh.
Bad pun one. Put it
Food
up.
for thought from Jacob Hopkins here.
It did the Shyamalamalan twist at the end without having Shyamalamalan
Yeah,
attached, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Another horror movie, the sequel to The Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this movie?
I'm not high on the hog on this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Fighting words?
Hannibal. Okay, so
I thought that was another pun.
Like many many Ridley Scott movies, is beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's beautiful to look at. I tend to not like horror movies that are beautifully shot, though.
Are we calling Hannibal a horror movie?
Yeah,
I mean, like it squeezes in. I think we can take it.
I think if you're going to eat Ray Liotta's brains at the end of the movie, it's a horror movie.
I literally can't watch that scene.
No, I can't either. It's
I
horror.
have to
It's
walk
awful.
out of the room.
It's something.
Yeah.
It's
I will say
rom-com.
the opening feels filler and throwaway. The middle hour with the Florence investigator and the cat and mouse game he plays with Anthony Hopkins. Oh, I love that hour.
Yeah.
And then once they go back to the U.S. and it's basically a chase and then a really, really gross brain-eating scene. So I can't give Hannibal. I would rather watch Red Dragon probably than
I
Hannibal.
agree with that.
But I do think there's really good stuff there in that middle hour.
Yeah. Another horror movie that came out in 2001, Jeepers Creepers.
Woo.
What do you guys think of Jeepers Creepers? I enjoyed it.
This got some baggage with it, though.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Baggage?
Victor Salva has a
Yeah, it
bag.
does.
So Jeepers Creepers.
He's got baggage.
Yeah.
And Victor Salva pretty much got 86 from the horror genre at this point. The cool thing is that it is a somewhat, I don't know if we can call it an original concept, but it is a fun concept, right? And it made for a fun and entertaining movie. It went on to spawn a sequel that was even more fun, but unfortunately, we're probably not going to get any more. And I don't know, maybe it's just because in 2001 the internet wasn't as everywhere, as it is today.
Yeah.
But now it would seem as if his past has caught up with him. Did you guys ever see Clown House?
No.
Nope.
No.
I don't think anybody saw Clown House.
Okay, well, I saw Clown House.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so
we don't count.
There was a shitty 80s movie called Clown House that Victor Salva directed. And turns out that he sexually molested the little boy, the star actor in that.
Mhm.
And he actually went to prison for it.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's some real shit. But he went on to do, Powder when he got out of there and Jeepers Creepers. And somehow that never really caught up with him until now.
Yeah.
Well, it's also kind of being paralleled, to get completely off topic, with this Birth of a Nation movie that's coming out.
Right.
Where it got filmed and made and had all this buzz, and then these allegations of abuse come to light. I think it was physical abuse.
It was rape.
Okay.
Yeah. The guy who directed it and starred in it had a charge from way back in 1999.
Yeah.
And the woman who accused him later committed suicide, and that's there's a lot of awfulness involved with that story as well. He's never been convicted. We can't say that.
No, I wasn't trying to convict the man.
No. But no, you're right. It's the baggage that comes along with it. It's not really the.
But I think we're in an era now, and I think you hit it on the head. It's because of the internet. It's because I can find out in 3 seconds on Twitter that you're not going to be able to get away with shit if you're a director, right? Look at what happened to Bill Cosby at this point. Not that he was a director, but I mean, if you want to direct movies and that's your ambition, or you're already there, don't commit crimes and rape people.
Yeah. I was going to mention one more horror movie real quick, since we were in the middle of all this, but Joyride. I remember that we had seen a lot of these movies all at the same time. This was our last year at Hollywood 27 together. I can't remember who left first.
I left. Then you left. Then I came back.
Right.
Then you went to New York.
2001. Well, no, 2001 was where I quit completely, and I worked for another company for about a year. But Joyride was another one that was kind of fun, and John Dahl showing up again. The guy makes a lot of great movies, and I mean, we're gonna have a question later about underrated directors. Yeah. I'm not gonna mention him, but John Dahl.
He's not the one,
but John Dahl is one of those guys, because he just makes he makes good or great movies all the time.
Well, and it's again, it may be nothing super inventive going on with this concept, but it's a very good hook.
Candy cane.
Yeah. You got 3 very likable leads: Paul Walker, Steve Zahn, and Lily Sobieski. It's short, sweet, to the point, gets in, gets out. The scares are legit.
Yeah.
You really think that ice truck is the bad guy truck. I enjoy this movie. I mean, it's not going to win. I'm not going to nominate it for anything, but it's a fun
It's a weak year, but it's not that weak.
Yeah.
It's good junk food.
But okay, so you were talking about, you're going to bring up AI.
AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Is the full title
Indeed.
of the collaboration, if you will, between Kubrick and Spielberg.
I don't know if there's one movie in Spielberg's oeuvre.
Nice. You just dropped a fucking dictionary on us.
Hold on, let me look that word up.
I got a welt from that Webster's.
I'm sorry. I'm just done now. I'm not going to complete the thought. I just wanted to say that word.
I didn't even have a thought.
But no, there out of all of his filmography, there's like not one movie that is more argued about than this one, right?
I would agree with that.
Like, I just recently saw this on one of the cable channels, and I was like, I'm really digging this.
Man, I love it.
But it's the ending, right? The ending takes, I mean, it's forever.
It's got a little third Lord of the Rings-itis here. Yeah. And Spielberg has already just done Lost World Jurassic Park and proven that he likes to let his endings run on a little.
Oh, yeah.
And that does happen here, and I don't think it is a perfect film. But I enjoy that ride and that aesthetic that happened between a film that Kubrick had prepared, and then Spielberg came in and added his thing to it. It's not like any other Spielberg movie, really.
Yeah.
No,
and then
not.
Jude Law is just so fucking entertaining in this as the love bot. Which I'm surprised we don't have love bots today.
Yeah, right?
That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's a real thing that'll happen.
I'm pretty sure Japan has those already.
Well, I'm not talking about like love bots that lay there. I'm talking about like Jude Law.
I'm pretty sure they interact.
Jude Law love bots.
Jude Law's like dancing
Jude
and
Law,
caressing and romancing.
Next week's podcast will be all about the love bots that we'll have conducted extensive research by that point.
We picked the wrong week, Luke. The wrong week.
We'll invite you back for
Okay.
that.
I don't know how long this movie is, but I almost wonder how long it would have been if Kubrick had directed it.
Oh, interesting.
It's I don't know. For me, it just never connected to me. It never got that feeling. I'm a big Kubrick slut, but like, man, I could not get into this. And I love Spielberg too. It just didn't have.
I think that's what it is. I think this is peanut butter and chocolate combining, and some people didn't like the new taste.
Yeah.
Some people found it to be a refreshing new thing. Spielberg's chocolate and Kubrick's.
That's a hell of a metaphor. I'm really feeling it. I'm feeling it.
The room got quiet.
But what do you have you guys seen AI? What do you guys feel about? Because there's a little bit of horror, like thriller elements here and there, especially when he goes to that fucking death rodeo for androids.
Yeah, I honestly have not seen it. No,
really.
Yeah,
I've seen
we
it.
Like honesty on the show.
The first time I really enjoyed it. Then I was like, I've got to go back and I've got to watch it again. Obviously, home video style, and I just didn't feel it the second time, and I just never went back to watch it. But I do agree with you, Jeremy. I do like the aesthetics of it.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies I can watch, and honestly, one of your favorite Kubrick ones is this for me. The sex one, whatever that's called.
Oh, Eyes Wide Shut.
I can watch that movie all the way through. That's a really enjoyable ride for me, but I will probably never go, I think that's a great movie. Like, I'm never going to say that. But I enjoy the experience.
It's the cerebral stuff that I think it could really been delved into more in this AI that I don't think Spielberg, it's just not his thing.
No, that's not. Well, that's why I like it, is that it forced us to get a new kind of Kubrick idea, and it forced Spielberg to do some non-Spielbergy things, and I think the result was muddied for some people and was gold for others.
Yeah. Also in 2001, Jean-Pierre Jeunet's Amélie.
I love this movie.
This
so
movie
much.
is so good. It's just one of those where it's magic all the way through it. There's no other word to really describe it, because Audrey Tautou is just adorable.
Yeah.
All the way through this.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the best shot movies. It's got a great little story. Like, it's not like complex or anything, but it's got a great, like, a whole bunch of surprises just around the corner in every
it reminds me almost, because it shoots Paris with such a loving nature that it almost seems like a Woody Allen film to me in its premise. But then, like you're saying, the shots are just so... there's such that fantasy element in there that just goes over the top, and it not in a bad way. Like it really works within the movie, like when she melts and becomes a puddle, like an actual puddle in the thing. And oh my God, what a winning performance. Like she's perfect in this movie. I love this thing.
Like, yeah, that was one of those where you watch the movie and you actually fall in love with the character. Like, you're like actually have...
I was just going to say, she's at Kate Hudson Almost Famous levels of drawing the viewer in here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, she knows she's adorable, and every scene she's adorable.
Do you hate Kate Hudson?
No, just bring back memories, bro. Just bring back memories.
Oh, okay.
Almost Famous.
Well, yeah. Oh, okay.
You guys hate
Luke loves Almost Famous.
Do you get a blowy while you were watching Almost Famous or something?
Self-inflicted, perhaps.
Oh, this just took a turn toward the urgent.
You weren't ready for that. You weren't ready.
None of us were ready for that.
All right. Well, I'm sorry I asked.
You have to be careful.
But no, this is one of the most engaging, charismatic performances ever, I think.
It really is. It's like I said, it's one of the few times where you actually feel like you are in the relationship with that girl.
Yeah, because she keeps breaking that fourth wall and looking and winking and smiling and all that stuff.
Yes,
but it's not in an obnoxious way. It's just
right. You were talking about Royal Tenenbaums and how it gets all like, it's getting to the point of like, this is too cute or whatever. Yeah. Amélie, for whatever reason, never gets to that.
It's because of her.
It's because of her.
And everybody else, all the other characters are in their own way also adorable.
Yeah.
Like even the guys in there, the technician, the photo booth and everything. Like everybody's just winning. You can tell, like this would be probably a shoot that would be a lot of fun to be on.
Yeah.
And just the shots of Paris, man. It's not that pornographic Paris where it's just like Eiffel Tower in every scene and all that shit, It's like little avenues of Paris that you wouldn't normally see.
Oh, yeah. It's just an amazing movie. What else in 2001, guys?
I'm looking at Vanilla Sky here on my list.
Yeah, you are.
We just crowned this dude's movie #1 of 2000, Almost Famous. He follows that up with
Cameron Crowe,
a remake of a Spanish film that stars Penelope Cruz in the same role, which is weird as fuck because I watched the original before I saw Vanilla Sky, somehow thinking I guess I needed backstory or something. I don't know. The original's fantastic. It has none of the gloss that Cameron Crowe's has in terms of the look. It's a lot plainer, grittier looking film, which I think sells the story in that version even better. Of course, Cameron Crowe does some other stuff to gloss it up on his. But one thing I can't ever get past is Cameron Diaz saying that one of the dirtiest lines of dialogue ever, and how awkward it makes me feel every time I hear her say that line.
But is she wrong? Is she wrong, Jeremy?
I think I wasn't there for the act itself, so I don't know.
Just don't use the word blowy again.
Yeah.
I just like to shorten things.
Yeah. Vanilla Sky was sort of the beginning of the end for Cameron Crowe.
I think you might be right.
This is the most divided movie of Cameron Crowe's career, easily. There are people who love this movie. There are people who just hate it. Most people hate it, I think.
Oh, really? Is that the consensus?
I think most people hate this movie.
Yeah.
Taxable.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I really enjoy it, but I think this movie really pissed a lot of people off.
Why is it? I mean, you talk about such a winning performance. I mean, you fell in love with Penelope Cruz in this movie too. Like, she's great.
Yeah.
And maybe is it Tom Cruise? Is it Tom Cruise doing
Might
something
be.
completely
This is in
different?
that era.
I don't know if the Tom Cruise hate had really happened yet, though. It's about 5 years for Tom Cruise before he gets into the, couch jumping, Scientology, all that getting thrown in there. But I don't know, man. I think sometimes when you have a movie that's got this kind of premise, and it's like, well, is it a dream or is it not?
Yeah.
People just get pissed off, man.
The people I know that are mad about it, I think it is that ending. I think the ending's cool, but I think they feel like they got cheated in some way with the movie when they hit that ending. Like, well, fuck that shit then. No, bro, calm down. It was just a movie. It's okay. It's okay.
This guy that I talk to on Twitter every now and then who watches the videos was saying when we did Gone Girl. When I put Gone Girl out, he was like, a movie that I loved 100% until the end, and the ending made me hate the whole movie.
I can see that.
Yeah, and that's how I actually originally described Eyes Wide Shut, was that an ending that pissed me off so bad it ruined what came before it. I settled in a place where I don't believe that anymore, but I do hate that ending. That is a shit ending.
Another great foreign language film for us here in the States, Tu Mamá También.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Oh, it's really, really
Means
good.
and your mother too.
And your mother too. That's correct.
And everything that implies.
Of course, this movie set a blueprint for all these movies that have come out with best buds that have come out like everybody's like, why didn't they do the Tu Mamá También treatment or whatever? Yeah, not every story has to end with some sort of gay sexual relationship at the end of it, okay? Not every. Yeah. But this is one of the three amigos. You have Alfonso Cuarón, you have Guillermo del Toro, and Alejandro G. Iñárritu. Try saying all those fuckers. This is my favorite director of the three amigos, Alfonso Cuarón, because every one of his movies is beautiful. Even he goes on to do Azkaban later on, and he does I believe is it Little Princess, the kids movie?
He did that, and he did Great Expectations too.
Yeah, and Great Expectations, which is a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't like it. But yeah, just everything that he does is just it's gorgeous. And he does Children of Men. Obviously, this is his biggest movie. But
Gravity.
Gravity. But yeah, Children of Men was the next big one that he would do. And then Gravity, and now he's
he's probably top 5 on my radar in terms of I really want to see whatever he does next.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a great movie, and it's also got some pretty hot hetero sex in it too. Yeah. Well, speaking of man-woman sex, Original Sin. No,
there you go. There you go. God, there's nothing about this movie I want to talk about except how bad it is.
Yes.
I've told this story before, but this is the only time I was previewing a print I built and ran upstairs because I was sure I'd put a reel out of order.
Oh, yeah.
Only to find I had not.
Yeah.
That is how hard a turn this movie takes. About 2/3 of the way through, it just goes, I'm going to the left now, and there's a new narrator that hasn't said anything the whole movie, and there's a nun prison, and what the fuck is happening? Also memorable because one of our crazy coworkers who talked to herself had her 4-year-old in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
And this is some of the most scandalous Angelina Jolie
yes, it is.
nudity you've ever seen. And there's a little girl running zigzag patterns up and down the stadium seating.
Just that Antonio Banderas movie.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, I was making sure I was on the right track with you.
And it's pretty raw. You don't see sex scenes like this in movies much anymore. In
Not
fact,
that
even in 2001, this was kind of because they had started after Basic Instinct and Showgirls and all that. They Hollywood started getting concerned about AIDS and stuff like that, so they stopped making mainstream sex movies and stuff like that. And so like that was just getting phased out. That's the reason why you didn't see like a whole bunch of like Basic Instinct ripoffs in theaters. You know, it was all on video. But like this was one of the last ones I remember that you can see like this type of stuff in like a mainstream theater.
It's pretty graphic, and it's almost Deadpool sex montage levels of
Yeah.
because they like do it, and then it'll show like one of them drinking orange juice, and then they're fucking again, and then it'll show like somebody coming out of the shower, and then they're fucking again. It goes on for like 20-30 minutes of the movie.
We had a few pretty good comedies in 2001. So Zoolander 2001.
Yeah.
I love this movie, but this is a weirdly divisive movie. Like I know plenty of people that dismiss it as just dumb.
Yeah.
And it's dumb, but I don't think it's just dumb. I think it's dumb and hilarious.
Yeah. That's what the point is, I thought.
And I think it was a hit. I think it did pretty well.
It did okay, I think.
I feel like I read some think piece about how America must have been ready to laugh after 9/11, and that's
Right.
why Zoolander did so well. 'Cause
Okay.
it's Forget your troubles.
It's one of those movies I love to quote, but I don't necessarily love to watch.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, so
I love quoting that movie.
absolutely.
And there's almost an experience every day where I can find something to pull
Gasoline
from that.
fight.
I mean,
Yeah.
all I have to do is cough, right? Get it out, something stuck in my throat, and I can go into the black lung
This
stuff.
movie only made $45 million.
This movie did nothing at the box office, I remember. It's a total failure.
People were not ready to laugh. It was, I feel like this movie hit the American culture, though. I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
it's like Dodgeball and, you know,
Yeah.
and
Old School.
and all these movies that people.
Anchorman.
Yeah, Anchorman. It's just like that to me.
Yeah.
As far as quotability and recognizability and everything, people weren't ready for it when it came out in theaters, really. But
Well, it's so far over, and it's really, really into that whole genre too. Of
Mhm.
like, there seems to be a lot of like in jokes about like fashion and the industry and stuff like that.
yeah,
and you get Billy Zane and David Bowie and like Will Ferrell doing his Mugatu thing.
yeah. Some other comedies that came out. A lot of people love Super Troopers. I do
love
too.
Super
I love
Big fan.
Yeah, the Broken Lizard guys, man, like, and even Club Dread, which I didn't like at first, I've grown to love over the years. But yeah, man, Super Troopers is one of the biggest, like, all time, like, got a life of its own after it was in theaters.
Yeah,
Oh, for
it's
sure.
unhinged.
Yeah.
Well, they set a crowdfunding record for the sequel they just finished
Yes.
wrapping. They raised millions and millions of dollars. It has a huge following.
Yes, it does.
You almost can't even call it a cult following anymore.
No, not at this point, because there's, a lot of random people on the street. You could talk Super Troopers with them.
Yeah,
and everything.
absolutely.
Another one that I know that Barrett and I like, Not Another Teen Movie, came out in 2001.
Absolutely.
Like, this isn't great, but it has so many like funny moments. Especially, it takes that She's All That genre
Mhm.
and like it exposes it for how fucking ludicrous it is.
Yeah.
Like, you remember She's All That? Rachel Lee Cook is about the hottest girl you can ever run into in your life. And like, oh, they take her glasses off and then everybody thinks that she's hot now. And Not Another Teen Movie sends that up beautifully because it's like Chris Evans is like, oh my God, she's wearing those glasses.
She's got paint on her overalls.
Yeah.
She's got a ponytail.
Exactly.
No, it's awesome. Randy Quaid is in it. It's different from like those regular parody of like date movie and all that bullshit that comes later on, because it seems really genuine. Like the dude that does the slow clap, like at inopportune times. And nobody follows in. He's like, God damn it. And then finally, like he's at the end and somebody else starts it.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. And nobody like, and the guy, Joel Galen, the writers, none of those people really did much after that or anything. But I think it's notable in this day and age that Aaron Seltzer and Jason Friedberg were not a part of this movie.
Yeah.
And what do you know? It's actually really funny.
Yep.
Another comedy that came out, another big cult comedy, Wet Hot American Summer. came out. Another
Huge.
funny and huge cast and everything. Another real fun.
Mhm.
And then they came out with the Netflix thing, which was awesome too.
Yeah.
At least I thought. Maybe everybody else.
It doesn't sound like Barrett thought it was
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I mean, I didn't
Barrett
like
was
it.
like, yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I didn't like it
whatever.
as much as the movie.
No, it's not as good
premise
as the
just kinda
movie.
goes.
Yeah, it's not as good.
There's
as
more H. John Benjamin in that.
Oh yeah. Also, 2001, Blow came out.
Yeah.
We I was trying to say that Blow came out last
the sequel
year.
to Snatch.
In the sequel to Snatch.
Snatch and Blow.
Yeah, the sequel is going to be Blowy by Jeremy Scott.
I'm going to give you the best blowjob
ever. That's a good movie, Johnny.
It is a good movie.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I think it sort of, when you first watch it, you're like, what kind of bullshit is this? But then later on, if you give it, you're just sitting around watching on TV one day. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's great. And Ray Liotta has a really good performance, and Johnny Depp is one of his finer ones.
Yeah. Also in 2001, Ghost World came out.
Yeah.
Another great. Oh, it's a great movie. Terry Zwigoff had done Crumb, the documentary. We didn't talk about that in 1994, but that's a great movie. You go on to do Bad Santa after that, Terry Zwigoff. But what else? Oh, Moulin Rouge. We didn't really talk about Moulin Rouge. I might like this more than most of you.
I love the first hour. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, the second half kind of starts to fall apart.
I'm yawning at that point.
Oh man, that music is a little jarring to me. It sneaking in like Smells Like Teen Spirit at the beginning, but the redeeming factor of this is that fucking what is that dance? The salsa, the one with Roxanne.
Oh, a salsa?
No, it's not a salsa.
You just said that. Keep repeating that until he says yes.
He's doing the tango.
It's the tango. It's the tango
Jeremy's
with
been sitting on
Roxanne.
that
In it.
Do you know why people like salsa? Because they like to say salsa.
They like to say salsa. They like to say salsa.
But no, that's a great scene though. That Roxanne version is really powerful, even though I don't like the movie overall.
Mm-hmm. Another comedy that came out, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah, this is my favorite Kevin Smith movie after Chasing Amy.
It's certainly, I think it may have the most to chew on, like comedy-wise, than anything that he's ever done.
It has the most laughs for me,
it is self-aware.
Yes.
Beyond self-aware.
I'm not, I have a hard time trying to figure out whether I like this more than Clerks or as far as his comedies are concerned. Chasing Amy, I still think is his best movie. But yeah, man, there's so much. I mean, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is very 2001.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like it's extremely 2001. Like Because I Got High at the end on the soundtrack. But I love the kick some ass segment at the end of it, and the you are the ones who are the ball lickers and all that.
He's using the internet at the kiosk.
Yeah. They're at that like movies. Yeah, whatever. I really enjoyed that. What else, guys? Is there anything else that we've missed?
Well, nothing that's going to contend.
Right.
I don't think.
I don't think so.
Made came out in 2001.
Yeah.
John Favreau.
Sort of a,
that was
sort of
an
a
interesting
follow-up
movie.
to Swingers, kind of. I mean, it wasn't Doug Liman, but Favreau directed this, and Vince Vaughn is kind of doing a Trent. Thing.
they're
if you
opposite
want to
roles,
hate Vince
essentially.
Vaughn, watch this movie. He's just nothing but a total dickhole fuck up the entire movie.
I know.
Thing.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, I'm serious. I like Vince Vaughn, the actor.
yeah.
His
Yeah,
character in this is dialed up to 11 on the annoyingness.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
Good performance from Puff Daddy, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Robert Altman, Gosford Park. Great movie.
Yeah, that's
when
a really
I first
good movie.
watched it, I didn't like it. Then I really grew to appreciate it later. Really good movie. It's a good
You were getting a blowy the second
I was
time.
getting a blowy.
Jesus.
This
Raw,
this is the blowy. This is the blowy episode. Monsters Ball, where you can see Halle Berry naked. That's basically this.
And Swordfish, where you can see
and
Halle
Swordfish.
Berry.
Swordfish. Yeah.
Speaking of blowies.
Yeah, exactly. This has devolved. Let's talk about something else in the bedroom. In the bedroom, good movie. It's all right.
Yeah.
Made Jonathan laugh and hysterically in the auditorium with people in it. What else? There's not really anything. This is the beginning of the end for a lot of like actors that feel like Wedding Planner, like Matthew McConaughey, Jennifer Lopez, and the aforementioned Kate Hudson, not in Wedding Planner, but like had the worst decade of anybody in this year. And McConaughey and Hudson were in 2 movies together in that decade. But like this is the beginning of that for McConaughey. Wedding Planner. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, come on.
I have a very specific memory about that movie.
Mm-hmm. Blowies?
No, more like drugs.
Mm-hmm.
The Wedding Planner.
Well, when you work in a theater and you put movies together, you watch them, right? It's not like I was like, oh, The Wedding Planner. I'm so excited about this. It was more like, oh, The Wedding Planner. I'm going to go see if that druggy manager has anything to get me through these next 2 hours.
Did it help?
No. That movie's pretty
really
putrid.
bad.
It's pretty bad.
Also, Frailty came out.
Oh, yeah.
Another good movie
Yeah,
here.
fantastic.
Bill Paxton directed this.
Although you were
and
just-
McConaughey's in
So
this.
you were just dogging McConaughey, but he's in that.
Yeah, McConaughey has like a couple of good movies in this decade, but most of his high-profile ones, like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and Sahara,
How to Lose a Treasure in 10 Days.
Fool's Gold.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
Fool's Gold.
all those are just awful movies. But this is good. Yeah, this is a really good.
Yeah,
one.
I really like Frailty.
The score came out.
Yeah,
we've talked
good-
about the
good,
score
fun
a couple
heist
of
movie.
times. Ali, Michael Mann, like nobody likes this movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nobody really likes this. movie.
I don't like the movie, but I am kind of fascinated by Will Smith in it
Mhm.
because he just went for it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And I don't feel like he missed. It's maybe not the grand slam that would have gotten him the praise and accolades and Oscars or what have you, but the fact of the matter is none of the rest of the movie is anywhere close to what he's given us.
Yeah.
And it just falls through.
The fights are good. Fights are well done.
Yeah,
though.
the fights are well shot. And anything with him on screen talking is great, but it's just that not enough.
The Coens came out with one of their lower movies, which means I still loved it. The Man Who Wasn't There came out.
I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, I do too. And we're probably the only people.
Yeah, maybe so, because, oh my God, it's such a blah performance by Billy Bob Thornton. But, like, it sets it up to where when he does come just a little bit alive, it's almost shocking.
Yeah.
It's, like when he's holding up the hair, he's like, this came off of a human, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, I love
well,
it.
and there's that part where John Polito is like suggesting that they should like get into bed together or whatever, and Billy Bob just looks at him for a second and goes, "You're out of line, mister." Right out of line. And then no, Jason X. You want to talk about Jason X?
We do not want to talk about
Come
Jason
on
X.
now.
We can pass. We can pass.
We've got two good ones that did come out that were foreign. Ichi the Killer from Takeshi Miike.
Oh yeah.
He likes to blend like gore, which normally doesn't bother me, but he blends it with like weird, which does kind of weird me out when like people are digging through feces and stuff. I don't know, that weirds me out.
No.
You sold me.
Right?
There you go.
And then Devil's Backbone, Guillermo, which I really love that one.
Okay, yeah, and that's one I haven't seen of his. He's gonna come up again later.
You bastard.
Yeah. Session 9 also came out in 2001. What do you guys think about that movie?
Not a fan.
It's got
Super overrated.
It's got the all-time best gif of David Caruso ever, where he's like, "Fuck you, fuck you."
Yeah, it's weird. Every time I talk to somebody who's seen that, they're like, "Oh, that was so awesome," and I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah,
I don't know.
get
I've
it.
never figured it out, and no one can explain it to me.
Don't get it. And then I'll mention Shaolin Soccer because that's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And also The Last Castle, movie that I was actually in.
Yeah.
You can see me in the background of The Last Castle.
That is a good movie, too.
Yeah,
man.
know
Robert
about
Redford.
that.
No, yeah, it's good.
Chris Atkinson's in it. It's awesome.
Well, okay.
Did you see
then.
that performance?
well, I mean,
sold
I
me.
did turn in a really good performance,
You did.
but I don't think I was good enough to save it. But no,
I like it.
Yeah,
I think
it's a decent movie. Like I actually came on cable the other day, and I sat there and I was like, it's all right, it's all right. But it's so like I don't know. I expected more from.
yeah,
it
it's
for
no
whatever.
Shawshank or anything.
No. But by the way, The Pledge came out.
Oh, yeah.
Another great movie. This is Sean Penn directing and everything. I just wanted to mention that one. Really
is a good
good.
one.
It's one of those that if you want, I mean, it's depressing as fuck.
Sure is. The
And-
premise is depressing as fuck.
Yeah, everything about it is depressing as fuck. It's exactly what you would think of Sean Penn doing a movie with Jack Nicholson would be. But if you kind of dig that type of movie, it's awesome, and I do dig that movie.
All right.
Let's get to voting on this.
Okay, so today's order is Jeremy, Chris, Barrett, and then Luke and Jacob, our special guests.
Yeah.
Jeremy, that's me.
Yeah.
I get to go first, and I think I'm going to surprise you because I think the best movie this year was The Others.
Ooh.
Now,
I am surprised.
I will state that if, like us, you're going about the task of trying to name the best movie of the years,
Mm-hmm.
this is a really fucking shitty year for that
Mhm.
because there is nothing that I would throw out as the best of the year that I wouldn't feel a little guilty about. Like, Fellowship is great. Might be the best of the year, but if we take it back a year and put Fellowship up against what's in 2000, Almost Famous is still going to win. There's just nothing in that heavy hitter upper echelon that screams this is clearly the best. And so I wrote down things like Fellowship and Training Day and State and Maine, and I settled on the others because I've seen it twice, about 10 years apart. Both times blew my mind. I feel like it has. Okay, so we just did The Witch, right? The Sins for the Witch. And that movie has a lot of great camera work and it has a lot of good mood and tone. But other than those things, didn't hold a lot for me. Whereas the others has all of that, plus a really compelling story and really compelling acting.
Yeah.
And a twist that doesn't feel cheap. It feels completely earned. Even less cheap than the Sixth Senses twist, I think, in terms of... Anyway, I just love it, and if I was going to encourage the listener to listen to watch one movie out of this year, that would be the first one I steered him towards.
Nice.
I think there is one slam dunk movie in this year at least, and that's Amélie. I don't feel one bit guilty in any way saying that that's the best movie of 2001.
Well, and you've seen it. I've only seen it the once after you recommended it, and so you have a lot more history with it than I do.
Yeah.
And so I guess that makes sense. I know you adore that movie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So that's my choice.
Could not agree with you more, Chris. I totally agree that Amélie is head and shoulders above everything. Now, Fellowship of the Ring is, you talk about cultural impact, you talk about cinematography and investment and things like that. Yeah, okay. And people don't really talk about Amélie all that much these days. But man, go back and watch that again. It will blow your mind on how it's shot, how it's performed, and how much you fall in love with not only the main character, but every character there. It just works on every level for me.
It's going to test your brain and your mind and your head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talking about something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
Okay, Luke, what you got?
Yeah, so I haven't seen Amélie. I was probably busy watching like Death, Blood Part 7 or some shit like that.
You probably were, as we were all. Yes.
I agree that the others probably... I remember when that movie was out, like, people were talking about it, man. People would come back from the theaters, like, did you see this? I couldn't believe it, blah, blah, blah. And we talked about the impact that it had on the genre as a whole. That being said, the movie that I find myself going back and watching over and over and over again is actually Training Day.
Yeah, very good one. Yeah, can't argue with that. Yeah,
cannot argue with that at all.
Yeah,
King Kong's got nothing on you.
That's right.
That's right.
So
all right, Jacob, bring us home,
you
baby.
might be able to decide this.
As bad as I want to go with Jeremy, because he does make some good arguments for the others, I'm going to go with one of my personal favorites. I got a little bit of a history with it, as you said. Man, I grew up just reading Tolkien. I didn't think I'd ever get to see like a good adaptation of Tolkien. And then when they announced it, Frodo is Elijah Wood. I was like, Flipper Kid? So I'm already disappointed. Like, it can't be Flipper Kid. And
the
then
kid from North?
Right.
That motherfucker?
Come on, But there's Ian McKellen in it, so I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. I went to the theater. Mind was fucking blown. Went back multiple times. I've still seen it. Probably more than any other film, so it's just got a special place for me, so I've got to go with it.
Five different...
Right.
No, well, I guess
Y'all
Amélie still wins.
Amélie does win, because it's got 2 out of the 5.
That's right.
Training Day would have been my second.
For some reason, because everybody said something different, I was expecting... I was like, oh yeah, Barrett said something different too. But
so Chris and I win.
Yay, Amélie.
Yeah.
I can't fault Training Day, the others, or Fellowship of the Ring, though. Those are all great movies. So all good choices.
It shows you what kind of year this is, that the disparity in picks there, from like fantasy to romance to whatever,
crime,
Training
action,
Day is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like we said earlier, today with us today is from the podcast Modern Horrors, Jacob Huggins and Luke Rodriguez. You also have a YouTube channel, Modern Horrors, and you also have a website, modernhorrors.com. Would you consider that your main deal, the website?
It wasn't supposed to be. The podcast was supposed to be the main thing, and Luke was like, hey, I'm going to make us a website, so we've got a place to put this thing. And I was like, let's do it. And then next thing I know, he's got this incredible thing built, and it just gets legs of its own, it's gone, and we're like, oh,
it's a beautiful website.
Yeah, that's all Luke. That's all Luke.
Yeah,
I have a really addictive, or obsessive personality, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to do a few things. Jacob's like, hey, do you want to do this podcast? I'm like, yeah, sure. But it'd be really cool if we had just a landing page for it, if nothing else. And then one night, I'm thinking about these movies. I'm like, man, I should probably write a review for this or some shit. Because I was leaving 100-word reviews on Google Plus or some shit like that, some community that no one looked at,
Mm-hmm.
So then we started writing these little reviews, and we wanted to make sure that before the podcast launched and that the website launched, that we had a plethora of content. We didn't want to launch a website and have 2 articles and people go to it and oh, that's neat.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the day that we opened, which was October 23rd of 2014, so we're coming up on our 2 years.
Wow.
We had a shit ton of content just sitting there ready for people to come in and check out. But that was never really supposed to be the focus. The podcast was supposed to be the focus. But, after several months, we kind of got our format down. Jacob took some time away to build up his personal business on the side. And in that time, it kind of turned into this thing where we were getting press opportunities on the West Coast, on the East Coast for some really cool things. I was meeting really cool people and directors and filmmakers all over the world and getting enough information where we just couldn't do it on our own anymore. We never wanted to have a staff of people. It was just supposed to be me and Jacob in this podcast the entire time. But we got to a point where now we have a staff of 11 writers all around the U.S. We've got some in Canada. And we need those people now to fulfill all of the opportunities that we've had. So it's been a really cool journey.
Well, and the reason I feel like you have so much content is because of this DIY horror type of thing going on that has has exploded on Netflix and a million of different ways that you can see horror movies now. There's so much content out there. The other day, I'm asking Jacob, what are the best horror movies you've seen in the past year? And he gives me this laundry list of movies that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
And then I go to Netflix and I'm like, oh, this is readily available. That's amazing. And that's probably, I guess that's a great deal for them.
Has it usurped the Hollywood model at this point?
Yeah, so that's a weird thing. So public perception still plays a heavy role in the horror genre right now, perhaps now more than ever. So whenever a new project gets announced, people on Twitter, they always hit us up hey, when's this going to be in theaters? And it's a different world now,
Yeah.
The answer is it's not going to be in theaters. And they're like, oh, so it's straight to DVD? I'm like, well, hey, fucking DVDs aren't really around anymore either. So it's going to be straight to VOD, but people still act like that's a 4-letter word, but it isn't. Straight to VOD or self-publishing is one of the best things to ever happen to the industry, period.
Mm-hmm.
You can go buy a DSLR camera for $1,000, pick up Adobe Premiere for some color grading and editing, and you can make a fucking feature film for, $1,000.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and you can see this more in these horror movies than I've seen in anything. The lack of a studio involvement is so stark in a lot of these movies that you guys talk about and everything. I watched what is that movie where the cops are going to go to the Baskin. Okay, that is a movie you would never ever see a studio make. No. First off, it's gross as fuck.
Sure.
But second off, it's got so much dialogue and weird dreamlike sequences in it, and I've never seen anything quite like it. I don't even know if I do like that movie, but man, I respect what it does, and it's hard for me because it's I don't know if I really like this. And it's a kind of a good horror movie, I guess, but I don't know.
So the weird thing about that one, and Jacob can probably talk more about this one, is a lot of what we're able to do now, and people have always found hidden meanings or subversive meanings in horror movies. Maybe they don't exist, The Shining being a fucking front for the moon landing being a hoax or something like that.
Yeah.
Some of it just gets crazy, right?
Right.
But some of it's also really legit, and these political statements and whatnot. And this is one of those movies. We do this series on YouTube called Fright Logic, where we take some of these movies like Baskin that you watch. Had we been around when Donnie Darko probably came out, we'd be doing one on Donnie Darko, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of those movies that you're just what the hell did I just watch? What did an airplane just crash? What?
Yeah.
So you're trying to dissect all that. So we We talk to directors, we talk to writers, we talk to studio heads. Like, hey, what happened here? And then we make a video about it all. Jacob was talking to Con Evernall, who is the writer-director of Baskin. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but shit is going down in Turkey right now.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie is like a whole thing. Jacob's talking to him on the phone, trying to get the down low, basically, and there's machine gun fire happening in the back. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, hey, let's just email because there's a little bit of time difference. And I was like, it's just going to be way easier if me and you talk email. And he's like, ooh, can we do this over the phone instead? I'm like, okay, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds a little crazy. So we did it over the phone. But yeah, I think there's a lot lost in translation there. But it's even somewhat divisive in the horror genre itself. But I think it's because it's like your experience with it, Chris. It's like, oh, it's really awesome looking. It's got a lot of cool things. But I don't know if I understand what the fuck's going on. And even after talking to Evernall, I'm not sure that I 100% understand. But it did clear up some of the, subtle political statements he's kind of trying to make.
I definitely want to get back to this DIY stuff, but since we are like, lame mainstream type of channel here, I do want to talk about the stuff that's come out in the theaters this year. There's been a couple of good ones, like 10 Cloverfield Lane was an enjoyable movie. Sure. But then there was the controversy that was The Witch or The Vivitch. Even you guys didn't like them, which I'm happy to hear. But also, I wish there was somebody here who loved it. They could tell me why they loved it.
Even if they were here, they wouldn't be able to tell you why.
Yeah.
They would just say, you don't understand.
Yeah.
That's the argument.
Well, and that's an argument.
And we are definitely standing alone in the subgenre of horror with our hate of The Witch.
Yeah.
Well, we got plenty of backlash
Sure.
from sin in that movie. There was an unexpected wave of people who love it. And I'm like, okay, like I would much rather hear somebody tell me I enjoyed it or it was good than telling me it was fantastic, because this movie is confusing as fuck on purpose. And when you spend that kind of time and money to give me a middle finger, I'm not going to give it an A+. I might go, I enjoyed some elements, or I had fun with it, even if I don't understand how anyone can look at that as a masterpiece.
Yeah, there's one point in there where actually all of us kind of came to a consensus that, I think it came from Chris originally, that this movie's actually going for something. And we gave it credit for going for something. But that's all you could really say about it, really, to make it like, it's unusual in the genre.
I never felt like super unsettled during it. I mean, there's some gross things in it where they're grossing, baby guts on the, all that stuff. But it's never to the point where I'm like, I'm really feeling like,
or weirdly loud pomegranate jam.
That's right, weirdly loud pomegranate jam. But yeah, there's stuff like that in it. But it's just, oh yeah, man. I actually wish we had somebody who loved the movie in here, and
so we could beat the hell out
of them, and just hates the fuck out of our sins video and tells us where we're wrong about it. But anyway, what did you guys think of The Conjuring 2?
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of James Wan in general. I think he's one of the best horror filmmakers of our generation, to be quite honest with you. That said, we kind of rehashed a lot of same things that we've been seeing in the genre for a while. A lot of the same things that James Wan himself sort of repopularized over the course of X amount of years. It's entertaining. I'm not going to say it's not entertaining. I thought it struggled with the whole... what was the CGI character's name? The Crooked Man.
Yeah.
The Crooked Man.
He had a name?
He did have a name.
Yeah.
I just cussed at him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's kind of, it's a stop motion type of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's, I guess I understand that kind of jerky motion is supposed to be a little bit, get you unsettled and everything. But it's very strange other than that. Like there's something about it that's just not right about it.
I mean, he first off, he said he wasn't going to do horror movies anymore, right? He went off and he did Fast and Furious. I think he's online for Aquaman now as well.
Yeah.
But so I believe that like he was sitting there in a production meeting, he's like, hey, we're going to have this CGI thing. He's going to be cracking the ceiling and all this is going to go down. And someone's like, bro, we got $3 million to do this. So they took his idea and had to scale it down. And whenever they scaled it down, like it just didn't translate very well on screen. At least it didn't for me. I mean, it just looked cheap and out of place.
Yeah, I mean, now this movie is beautifully shot. I totally agree with that. Like it was one of those where I was like, damn, this guy is on another level on this type of thing right now. He he does this thing that's pretty effective. I don't think he's ever going to get away from it, that he keeps doing that whole like cut away to something and there's nothing there, and it cuts back to the person and they're just like looking off. It cuts away, we see nothing again, and it cuts back, and he's positioned your eyes to a certain point where he'll put that demon like right there behind somebody's shoulder, and he does that. He did that in either the first Conjuring or Insidious.
Insidious.
It was Insidious.
Very
He did
famous,
that. Yeah, which was one of the biggest scares of that movie.
But one of the better things is he's very, very good at doing that. But he's also good at making you think he's about to do that and not doing it.
Right.
So then you never really know when it's going to happen. Because
Yeah.
you might say like, oh, well, you know, they're looking in the medicine cabinet. They opened it up. They're going to shut it. And there's going to be someone standing behind him in the fucking mirror or something like that. But there isn't. So you're like, oh, well, they didn't do that. And then as soon as they turn around, then it gets you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of using these cliches that have been used for so long sort of against themselves to be effective, which is very cool.
Yeah. There's a couple that I haven't seen. Maybe you guys can talk about it. Don't Breathe was a huge, huge hit. Still going. I'm going pretty strong, actually, for an independent. Well, I mean, a somewhat independent. You can't really call this independent anymore, considering what your genre is. But have you guys seen Don't Breathe?
I didn't get to see it yet. Luke has, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this movie kicks ass.
Oh, yeah?
Unfortunately, horror, probably all movies, but horror specifically, we have a trailer problem right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have a massive trailer problem.
Definitely.
Where the filmmakers have no say in it, but their movies are just getting ruined in trailers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Don't Breathe was probably one of the most egregious examples of that.
Definitely.
Period.
Yeah.
They show almost everything that happens. There's a twist that happens in the middle. They spoil that. I mean, it's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually able to see this back in March at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and word coming out of it was just like, hey, like this movie's rad, but do not watch the trailer, because everything is right there. So whenever we were getting trailers sent over from press companies, we refused to run them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not going to feed the beast, like that's part of the problem.
Yeah. And another one that came out recently that did not connect, Blair Witch, the the sort of, I guess, redo, remake. What is it? What do you call it?
It's a sequel, actually.
Is it a sequel?
Yeah.
Straight up sequel. Then.
Straight up sequel. Not a good one, but it's a straight up, it's a straight up sequel.
But the ad, man, there was a guy from Fangoria or whatever the fuck that said it was the best movie he's ever seen. Yes. Come on now.
That's actually, his name is Brad Miska. He's from Bloody Disgusting.
Oh, okay.
And he's a fucking joke.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he really is.
We might not be friends.
Oh, man, thank God.
I
read that.
I think you guys talked about it when was Jonathan on that episode when you guys were talking about it, and I think you actually mentioned it. I know me and Luke talked about it too. It would have been a much better movie had it been just the woods.
Yeah. We did actually talk about that with him here. Yeah. Like, why? It's one of those things where they have to have a franchise name for something. And I saw this in a Cracked article recently where they were talking about how there'll be movies that they're making that have nothing to do with a franchise, and then like in the last minute they're like, let's call this Fast and the Furious 9.
Right. Well, I mean, that actually happened with 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Exactly. Abrams is trying to make this movie, and like, well, he knew that we got to have some sort of established brand recognition to go with. So like, hey, well, how about we make this other movie that's quote unquote in the same universe,
right?
But really just do whatever we want to do and say, it's a Cloverfield movie, which fuck, it worked, I guess.
Well, it's the reason why that whole alien thing at the end feels tacked on, and then you realize later, oh, it was tacked on. What else? So is there any...
Well, what do you guys... All right, so if you're like a comedy writer or something like that, like you watch comedies and you want things to make you laugh, like do things, after watching as much as you guys have watched, do things still unsettle you or actually like scare you with these movies?
Sometimes. We do see a lot. It will desensitize you to, a certain level. But yeah, it's almost always some weird indie project that no one else is talking about outside of the genre. I'm trying to think of the last thing that we saw that was just like, you know what? Speaking of unsettling, I know one that come to mind was Landmine Goes Click. That was out of, what was it, Georgia, the country Georgia? Yeah. And it's just really, really dark, disturbing behavior of human beings. And it was an uncomfortable watch. When we reviewed it, we were like, man, this is an amazing movie, but we will never watch it again.
Oh, really?
Ever. Yeah,
it's
like
those.
one time and I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah, it's heavy. I mean, you watching the trailer and stuff, you might think that it plays out a very stereotypical sort of situation, but it really morphs into something else by the end of the movie. And it's one of the few movies that after the credits roll, I'm just like, exhale and just say, like, fuck. You know, out loud. I mean, that was deep.
Yeah.
That being said, it's a very small scale movie, so you have to go in with measured expectations. But I think what's really important is to understand, like, the horror genre isn't really always there to scare you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not really the point. I mean, you've got the horror comedies, you've got like the horror thrillers, like Don't Breathe. I mean, Don't Breathe isn't a scary movie. It's just really intense, and it just has so much graphic shit, pushed into it to where you can't really call it anything else. It doesn't fit anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people will say that on Twitter, like we say, like, we really love this movie, and we gave it like an 8 or something. Did you guys see Green Room?
Yeah, I did. I
Okay.
did. Yeah.
So I really, really liked Green Room. And whenever we covered it, people agreed that it was a good movie, but they're like, well, that's not a horror movie, And well, maybe it's not, but it's got so much just really gratuitous violence in there where you can't really call it anything else.
Right.
That's what happens with our genre a lot. It becomes a catch-all because there are these movies that won't fit in any other place. And so, yeah, I think people who just hop in on Halloween time, they're like, well, I expect something to scare me.
I think some of this is genre-wide, and that's why you get a movie like The Martian that's Golden Globe nominated as a comedy.
Yeah.
The Martian doesn't fit cleanly enough into any one genre, and it ends up being called a comedy. I bet that happens more in horror than anywhere else.
Anytime somebody wants to do something extreme, it's like, well, we ain't got nowhere else to go.
Well,
Horror.
And that's the power of expectation, because I was told Green Room was a horror movie when I went to go see it. And I was sitting there going, well, when's the horror coming out? You guys introduced some Nazis. Okay, that's cool. I can see some horror coming out of that. And then and then they're locked in the room. Like, okay, well, so I guess some Nazi zombies are going to come through the wall or something like that. And it's like, no, it's just a really, really violent movie, and stuff like that. It was pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed it. So you guys bring up basically a great question. Then what makes a great horror movie? And I'm sure that is a divisive topic, because there are people who like gore, and then there are people who like psychological stuff, which is me. Gore has never interested me. I know you love gore, Luke.
I mean, yeah, I do. I think we call them gore hounds in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that comes from just love of practical effects and from like a technical mastery level. Like, how the hell did they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We just did a huge piece on the website on a movie called The Mind's Eye, and we actually had the effects team write a guest editorial for us, just taking us through, blowing up wax head molds with shotguns, and it was so cold that they had to add vodka to their blood mix to keep it from freezing on the set.
Oh, wow.
Just like crazy stuff that you only get that kind of story in a $1.5 million budget horror movie. I mean, it's just soulful stuff. As far as what makes it, shit, I don't know, man. Expectation is a big part of it. As far as like if a movie is trying to scare you, if that's the point, which as we've said, that's not always the point. But if it is trying to scare you, I would go as far as to say 80% to 85% of it comes down to who is your sound engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So much of horror relies upon sound. There's the famous story of John Carpenter finishing the original Halloween and taking it in, and the executives are like, well, this wasn't fucking scary. Like, well, you want me to run this?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes home and he bangs out a couple notes on his, keyboard and takes it back and like, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life, So, and that has evolved over the years. I mean, you've got some really talented sound engineers working in the genre right now, and whenever it comes to creating fear and dread, that's so important. I mean, you've got people using subsonic sounds that you cannot hear, but you can feel that make you uncomfortable. And you don't know why you're feeling uncomfortable, but it's all a sound engineer doing that and eliciting that feeling out of you. And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome and terrifying. Just wait till the terrorists get a hold of that technology.
Yes. You brought up my favorite horror movie is Halloween, like by far, easily. And the sound is, of course, really effective in it. But I also think his use of the camera, where everything's sort of creeping on the edge of the frame and stuff like that, we don't see that very much in horror movies anymore. You're talking about James Wan. I think he's pretty close to using that camera in such a way, even though it's more editing tricks than it is.
Well, the problem comes, and I'm sure you guys experience this. Every genre probably experiences this, but we get a lot of people that complain about not being original. right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, because if you're going to do that, they're like, oh, you're just copying Halloween, or you're copying this, and then when you try to do something original, like, well, this sucks.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, what do you want? Then,
Right.
You know, I mean,
yeah, exactly. And I will give points for a movie being original every time. It could be sucky. And I'll be like, well, at least they tried something. You have to try something,
right?
Every time. If everybody did that, then you would have so many more great movies. Yeah, some are gonna suck because that's the way math works.
Sure.
But it's
See, I think that's why we like, and we were talking about it a little bit during the break, is our boy Mickey Keating, this really young director. And we love this guy. And he's not always a hit every time he makes a movie, which is crazy to think at 24 you've got multiple movies already. But every movie is so different. You could look at him and you would never guess, oh, yeah, this is totally a Mickey Keaton movie. They're just not. And sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're a miss. But he doesn't care, like, if it lands with some people or if it doesn't. He's just, like, kind of stretching these directorial chops and trying to see what that vision's going to be, and I like that.
Yeah, well, this is why my personal biggest pet peeve with the horror genre is all the sequels, and I get it, right? Like, I know why studios like horror movies; they're generally cheaper. I know why studios like micro-budget horror movies like Paranormal Activity because they're even cheaper. And you make a decent horror movie. I swear to God, without looking, I could go look on Box Office Mojo, and every single horror movie ever made has earned between 40 and 50 million at the box office, right? They're going to make some kind of return from that college casual crowd. You've got your hardcore horror fans who are probably going to see everything that's out there. But even the fact that The Conjuring 2 existed bothers me because I liked the first Conjuring. Maybe what's missing is Ron Livingston in the second one. But anyway, I liked the first one. It felt real, that world, that haunting, everything about it. It was genuinely chilling to me. This feels like we're doing this movie soon for Sins. I guess I'm spoiling that. But there's even a Sins, I think Chris wrote in there about how this is basically Insidious 4. Like, you even got Patrick Wilson in here. Like,
yeah.
Well, here's the cool thing about, I mean, maybe cool, depending on your outlook of it. They're doing something sneaky, right? So you've got the Conjuring, which are basically, it wasn't supposed to be called The Conjuring at first. It was supposed to be called The Warren Files. And it was Ed and Lorraine Warren. And so really they have so many stories, basically, that you could just keep doing this shit forever if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But what they're doing now is they're making this universe. The first spinoff was Annabelle, right?
Yeah.
Annabelle came from the first Conjuring movie. Yep. In the second Conjuring, you have The Nun. Now there's going to be a spinoff for The Nun. So they're having this universe now, not dissimilar. It gets thrown around a lot, but people want to have like the success of the Avengers universe. You want all these independent popular franchises, and you want them to be able to come together and be like a mega.
Fifth movie, is she going to have to square off against all of them at once? Like the nun and the doll and the kid from Insidious?
Dude, I would not rule it out.
Well, I don't know. There's
something
to be said about, not necessarily within movies, but in TV as a genre of the anthology type of mentality, right? Yeah. Like whether it's something like VHS or with American Horror Story or something like that, where you reset. Maybe there's some parallels in there.
Does the same thing.
Yeah. Within the horror genre, though, I feel like you can set up a universe and go to different places in it. It's just that with these sequels, they typically take the same characters and they rehash the same stories. But there is a way that can be done, like Tales from the Dark Side and Twilight Zone and the Friday the 13th series.
I think Jeremy has a legitimate complaint, as much as I do like Conjuring 2, that one was a lot heavier handed with, hey, look at the nun. This nun's going to be a character. The nun.
Yeah.
Because I felt like we were taking away a little bit from our main story of the house and the Crooked Man. I'd have preferred to see more of the Crooked Man, as goofy as you guys might have thought he was. But.
Yeah. Well, and I really hated just the whole, but the ending of that movie. Hated it so much.
Well, the ending was very weak, I thought.
Oh, so bad.
The last minute discovery on the way back. And,
oh my God!
And letters on the bookshelf.
I couldn't detect the evil presence there because reasons,
He's wearing a tinfoil hat.
The
signals.
But the thing about sequels that I've been thinking about this recently, the thing that I hate about sequels is that I think that we're willing to suspend our disbelief for one movie. If a whole bunch of stuff happens to somebody in one movie, we're good with that. But once it starts becoming 2, 3, 4, and 5, then they're living it in all that. It becomes more and more unreal and ridiculous. It's kind of like Fast and the Furious movies, you know. You're like, they shouldn't survive one movie, but even if we were like able to be like, okay, they survived that one movie, now there's 6 other movies, you know. Like, come on, you can't keep smashing cars through buildings.
I mean, if you went back in time and just gave those characters superpowers, I don't think I'd have a problem with
No,
that.
you might as well, right?
Because then a lot of what happens makes sense.
Yeah.
But without superpowers, those movies are just fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is why people that aren't in the horror genre don't like horror, because it's like strangled by big production companies like Blumhouse. And this is Blumhouse's bread and butter, is this constantly, let's tie it back into the other thing. And any movie they have, from the producers of Insidious, The Conjuring, you name all these fucking movies every time.
And that's
so much other good things out there to see.
Yeah, and that's a bummer because everyone's afraid of it. Like, everyone looks at modern horrors, which is the name of our fucking website.
Right.
They look at those and they're like, well, you know, horror's dead. You know, every single time someone's like, oh, horror's dead, Blair Witch flops, horror's dead, you know, something like that. But they don't realize all of just the gold that's in that VOD space right now, coming from guys like Mickey Keating and Joe Begos and Eric England and just some really, really talented young up-and-coming directors that are trying different things. Sometimes they're not successful, but they're fucking out there trying.
Yeah.
Even like a Last Shift or something like that that's on Netflix. I mean, that's more of a traditional horror movie that people seem to like, but it's just because it's traditional.
Well, in one movie that you guys recommended to me that does not fit in that horror, at least the easy horror genre that I know, is He Never Died. You guys brought that up to me, and I was like, okay, I'll watch this and everything. Henry Rollins turns in one of the most interesting performances. I mean, it's great. Like, I'm not saying interesting like, oh, well, he tried something there. It actually works beautifully for it. And like, there's a point where you're laughing through this whole like, and it's on purpose.
Oh yeah.
Like the laughs are on purpose, but he's great in it. You know, and you know, it's He Never Died. There's a point where like the girl that his love interest is like, name some jobs, and he goes through like 100 jobs. Like, you couldn't possibly do this in one lifetime because he's lived like 70 lifetimes. You know, but just the way he is in that whole movie, I really enjoyed that and everything.
People love to talk about that film. I think that's got by far the most comments on our YouTube review of that particular movie. Everyone wants to discuss, like, what's that ending? You know, what is this? What is that? What is this? And they just love it. And there's a lot of that. And what's cool is you can go back and you can watch it. You can enjoy the film for all those reasons, or you can just watch it and enjoy it for the face value. And I really dig that.
Yeah.
That one came from a guy named Jason Krofschek, who's another super young, you know, up-and-coming filmmaker. If you liked that one, you might be happy to know that they're currently past optioning now. I mean, they're in development of a Netflix original series for He Never Died.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's perfect Netflix fodder.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
it's absolutely perfect.
Well, and I was going to bring up Netflix in terms of, like, I think the VOD thing is going to change. I think the stigma is going to change about that just because of what Netflix has been doing with Stranger Things, but it really started with House of Cards. And they're going to do that with movies.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do that for all genres of movies. And
another one that we recommended that Chris watch was The Invitation.
Yeah, and I loved that. That was out of the ones that you recommended, that was my favorite.
That's
that
the
was
highest,
the only good one.
That's the highest review I've ever given a horror movie on the website, was The Invitation. I absolutely love that movie. But that one is one that Netflix actually acquired out of festival, out of South by Southwest. So, and they're starting to do that. They did that with Hush.
Yep.
I mean, they're doing that. So you're right. I mean, that is something that's happening right now. But I don't know if the general public will understand, like, oh, that's a Netflix original movie.
Yeah.
Well, not really. I mean, they just bought it at a film festival, and there's like 50 other awesome movies that were at that film festival that didn't get bought, that just got dumped on VOD somewhere that you'll probably never hear of.
all I really meant was just that people will be less afraid to watch something because it's VOD.
It'll lose that
And
dirty connotation.
But there's always going to be that DIY underground space, no
and
matter what.
by the way, don't pay attention to the Netflix ratings when you watch them.
Oh, my God.
They're-
Well, in fairness, I believe, isn't it for like what Netflix thinks you will like, or am I wrong on that?
I'm not sure.
Is it based off of what you've already rated?
I've
Maybe?
never rated anything.
I've never rated anything
Okay.
either.
So
No, you're right, though. Because I think even The Invitation, whenever I looked at it, it had like 2.5 stars.
yeah,
Like, what?
I mean, and so the thought that runs through my head on those ratings is, what did you expect to see when you watch this movie? I mean, I can imagine like a family of 4, like all like, let's gather in front of the couch and watch, Baskin, ladies and gentlemen. And they watch it and like, well, that was unsatisfactory. I really love The Invitation though, because this is one that doesn't fit easily into the genre either. Mm-hmm. It's a drama. Ostensibly, and then it has the ending of this movie is one of the best endings I've ever seen.
So me and Jacob on our podcast, we used to have we've evolved since then, but we used to have this topic of the week, and one of these we were just discussing our favorite subgenre of horror movies, and at some point he was like, hey, I like the supernatural stuff, and I was like, hey, well, I like the slasher stuff. But now that we've been doing this for so long, we've had so many projects come. I mean, that is our new favorite thing. I mean, these dramedy horrors, basically, where it's just a really fucking good movie throughout the whole thing, and at the end, it just stabs you in the gut with something, and that's super cool. I mean, there's a movie called Last Girl Standing, which it looks like it would be like a slasher movie, but it's not. Like, it begins at the end of a slasher movie. Right, where all of her friends get murdered and blah blah blah, but then it picks up from there and follows this girl's life on what it's like to survive some shit like that, and the psychological trauma that would come along with that. It's a really interesting take on it, and this is the kind of shit that people are doing that just no one really understands, and that's a bummer.
Yeah, I love all that type of stuff. If you could have that kind of thing going on with all genres, like it would be interesting to see, like. Again, no studio interference with a lot of these movies, but you wouldn't be able to. I don't think you would be able to market. Maybe they kind of marketed comedies this way. There's a lot of like DIY comedies almost.
So there's me and Jacob were really disappointed with this one movie called. This one's actually on Netflix as well. It was called Uncaged, right? Mm-hmm. So we got this trailer that looked like it was going to be a sweet ass werewolf movie, right? Yeah. So like we contacted them. We're like, hey. Send us that sweet-ass werewolf movie. And they did, and it was not a sweet-ass werewolf movie. What it was fucking hilarious.
Oh, really?
Like outright, like side, like gut-splitting funny, right? So me and Jacob are talking about it on the show, like we're kind of, not loving the horror aspect of it, but like, hey, it's so funny. Like it really had that early Judd Apatow kind of humor to it. And the writer actually hit me up on Twitter afterwards on a DM, and he was like, hey, I noticed you guys were saying you didn't like the horror, stuff. He's like, that's because we didn't write a horror movie.
Yeah.
He was like, we wrote a comedy, and you cannot get independent financing for comedies anywhere.
Right.
He's like, so we threw a werewolf in it, and we got funding like that.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
That's great. In fairness, though, the genre as a whole has a marketing problem.
Yeah.
Like, they want to pitch you one movie, and then they show you a different movie.
Oh,
and so a lot of times I'll sit there personally, and I'll judge it based on how you sold it to me. Mm-hmm. I feel like if you want to sell me something, then that's how I'm going to judge you.
Yeah.
Which isn't always necessarily fair to the movie, per se. But, I mean, like, that's what pisses people off, and that's why people stay away sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And getting just briefly about the comedy, you go to Netflix and see comedies, but to your point, they almost always have like Saturday Night Live cast members who wrote the script or are in it or something like that. And that's the only reason it's made. I've seen some horrible comedies on Netflix.
Yeah.
They deserve their 1-star rating.
Shout out to Deathgasm, though. It does not deserve a 1-star.
Which one?
Deathgasm.
Deathgasm?
New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
What is that about? Is that about a deathgasm?
It really kind of is.
It's about
It's about this kid that moves to New Zealand to live with his ultra religious like aunt and uncle, but he's the only kid there that likes metal, right? So one day he goes to the local shop and meets this other guy that's like a metalhead as well, and they ended up breaking into this house that is from some like famous New Zealand. It's like they're Ozzy Osbourne, basically, right? So they're breaking into Ozzy Osbourne's house, and they steal this record, and this record ends up being it has sheet music inside of it. Mm-hmm. So they decide they're going to start a band and play that sheet music. But that sheet music summons the fucking devil, and everyone like it's kind of like the Pick of Destiny. From
I was about to say it sounds a lot like that.
Buckets and buckets of gore and just outrageously funny.
Death by anal beads and dildos.
Ooh,
that's all you need to
okay.
know.
Well,
that's all you need to know.
I'm watching that movie now.
Just when I was feeling awkward about all my blowy references,
This is probably the dirtiest episode we've ever done, right?
Well, that's a terrific band name.
Well,
it's
we're
Death by
here,
Anal
so
Beads.
Yeah. before we go on to our Q&A and everything like that, talk about what you think are the best movies this past year. And we've mentioned a few of them. And tell us what you're looking forward to, because I know today I saw Jacob talking about one of these movies that Jordan Peele's coming out with. But,
sure.
But tell us what you think people should go, if they're really interested in this type of thing, what should they go for?
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to expectations. I haven't been scared by a movie in a very long time. Okay, so I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't watch these kinds of movies to be scared. I watch them to, maybe be surprised or shocked or, technically marveled or something like that. So I recommend Green Room if you haven't seen it. I think that's a really tense movie by a really talented filmmaker. He also did Blue Ruin, which if you haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Go watch Blue Ruin. It is very good as well.
Is he 2/3 of the way through a color trilogy?
He damn sure is.
It really is.
But there are other movies, Carnage Park from Mickey Keating, which is really good. It's damn near Tarantino-esque, as far as its dialogue and the film style is concerned. What else you got, Jacob?
Man, so stop going to see Rob Zombie. That'll solve part of your problem. I really like a lot of the foreign stuff that's coming out. We just watched one that was Under the Shadow. It was set in Tehran in the 80s. It's super cool. I love almost anything that comes out of some kind of Spanish region. Most of that shit's really super. You mentioned Baskin. I know that wasn't your favorite, but you definitely need to set yourself up for expectations on that one.
Yeah.
And I think really that is a big part of it. Really kind of knowing what you're going to be getting when you go into some of these things. Or at least having a better idea.
There's another one called I Am Not a Serial Killer. With Christopher Lloyd is in it.
Oh, wow.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah.
It's really good. It's more in that like a drama horror sort of space that turns into something completely different at the end. That one is absolutely worth a watch. There's some really good stuff coming out of Canada. One's called The Unseen. I think it's still working its way through film festivals, but this is the guy that did the special effects for Iron Man and Deadpool and all these enormous budget movies. He tried his hand at like a supernatural horror movie independently in Canada, and it's really cool. It's about this guy that is slowly turning invisible, but not like in a Hollow Man, creepy, rapey kind of way.
Right.
Like it's like a flesh-eating disease that's slowly eating his skin and making him turn invisible.
It's pretty impressive visually.
Yeah.
And his daughter has disappeared, and he fears that she has the same illness or whatever.
Oh, my God.
So
that
he's trying
sounds
to find
pretty
her.
good.
It's really good.
And it's one of those, definitely expectation-wise, not really a horror film, other than the fact that the things they show, you can't really throw that anywhere else.
Yeah. All right, and then what's coming out that we should be looking for?
So you mentioned the Jordan Peele movie, Get Out.
Get Out, yeah.
I think it's coming out at a perfect time. It's definitely one of those kind of racially charged.
Yeah.
Maybe a sprinkle of Stepford Wives kind of thing going
Looks
on
like
there.
it.
Not really sure yet what we're going to get out of that, but it's definitely interesting. It's piqued a lot of people's interest because he's got a huge following.
Yeah.
So they're going to watch it, which will be interesting to see how that plays out because it doesn't look like there's going to be much comedy in this thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, his audience is there for the comedy.
Right, yeah. So I'm curious to see
I'm
how
always
goes.
interested when somebody known for something as extreme as comedy does something as extreme the opposite as like make a horror movie.
Yeah, we were surprised. He knows his horror shit. Like, brief conversations through different messages. We're like, okay, this guy legitimately knows what the hell he's talking about.
If you watch Key and Peele, even their funny horror sketches
have
the mood of real good horror movies. Like, I they kind of know what they're doing here. Like, this isn't just some, they're not trumping anything up to, they're really making these scary looking and everything.
The good news is if you watch the Get Out trailer and it seems like something you'd be into, we're actually going to have Jordan Peele on the Modern Horrors podcast in the near future. We'll talk about it.
That is a beautiful get right there.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We have also got Fantastic Fest just wrapped up. So in our industry, like, festival season is the biggest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go to these film festivals to watch these movies ahead of time that might not get formal distribution for like another year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got one called Safe Neighborhood, who has the same two kids from The Visit, Shyamalan's The
Yeah.
Visit. The same two kids are in this, but it's like a horror version of Home Alone, which is one of the highlights coming out of Fantastic Fest. It was incredible. The Autopsy of Jane Doe. There's one called The Lure, which is like this musical thing about killer mermaids that is super just, oh my God, it's Polish. It's beautiful. It's just visually spectacular.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I like the Dark song.
I haven't watched that one yet.
It's pretty good. Watch it.
So I might watch the Dark song. The Void, which is like a throwback to crazy practical effects 80s movies, from back in the day with demons and whatnot. That one's going to be really cool. Lots of really awesome stuff to look forward to.
What do you guys think of Stranger Things, by the way?
Oh, loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was one of those, like, I didn't really want to binge watch it. Kind of wanted to savor it, but that wasn't an option.
Yeah. I had no idea it was 8 episodes, and I watched 4 of them, and then I was like, okay, well, I got about 8 or 9 left or whatever, and then I got to the 8th one. I was like, kind of feels like this is the end of the show.
Yeah, hold on one second.
This is weird.
Yes.
Like they're gonna go down a trap door, and there's gonna be more story.
Yep.
No. All right. Well, I'm gonna thank you guys for coming in today.
Yeah, for
having us.
And if you guys want to check them out, they've got the Modern Horrors podcast where you can hear them talk about these movies ad nauseum if you want. And they play games and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in an episode once.
You were?
Jordan Peele's coming up.
And Jordan Peele's going to be on there.
Send your hate mail our way.
That's right. But also modernhorrors.com where you'll get to see their reviews and their upcoming previews and all this other type of stuff if you're really into that stuff. It's a beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
Beautiful website. And you can go also to YouTube for Modern Horrors and look at the reviews there. You guys got like 5 and 6 minute reviews of stuff there too. So
yeah, I mean, that's something that we're really trying to grow. We are obviously not even fucking close to where you guys are right now. But it is a goal of ours. Just our genre as a whole just doesn't have that much reach, right? So we'll never be there. But we do feel like we have a far better product than anyone else that's doing horror. So
yeah,
if that's your thing, then check us out.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, that's great. Well, we're going on to Q&A now.
Yeah.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Quick reminder to get on the Cinemasins subreddit, reddit.com/r/Cinemasins. And there's a weekly question thread up at the top pinned there. First question is one that immediately intrigued us. If you could build your own personal entourage consisting of movie characters, who would you pick and why?
Okay. Jeremy,
since
let's
you
go
offered
for
this
it, man.
guy.
I got to pull my phone out of my pocket that has my answers on it. I absolutely love this question, by the way. I spent about 2 hours thinking about it. All right, so here's my entourage, and I'm assuming that I am a celebrity who's rich, and I don't need to put anyone in my entourage to buy me things, right? All right, so I've got Paul Metzler from Election.
Nice.
Yes.
Because he's handsome.
You Betzler.
He's popular. He can bring us chicks, and he's dumb as a post. Which I can control him.
Yeah.
Solid.
I've also got John Connor from Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Good with gizmos and gadgets. Got a little bit of a criminal larceny streak in
That's
it.
right.
He's got
Yes.
some good 90s slang.
Some good adventures.
He's got
he'll
a
get us
stolen ATM card.
in. Yeah. Well, he can get us out of some jams is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I got Tobey Maguire or James Lear from Wonder Boys because he's fucking weird as hell.
Yeah.
And I'll blame everything on him. He's the patsy.
That's right.
Timberlake in Alpha Dog, because in Alpha Dog, I really do think Timberlake is a good guy who just gets caught up in a deed gone wrong. But really, I just want to be friends with Timberlake in real life.
Yeah.
So that made it on there.
So you roll the dice
And then
with that one.
my final entourage member is Groot.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't go wrong with Groot.
He's adorable, and who's gonna fuck with me when
That's
I have
right.
a Groot in my entourage?
That's a terrific pick right there.
There you
Yeah.
go. There's my entourage.
Okay.
Give
I
me
love
my
that.
money, HBO.
I love
That's
that
nice.
entourage.
I love that entourage too. I'm
Yeah.
going to save yours for last because I love your entourage.
Okay, go for it.
So
Barrett.
mine is the first one is Lloyd Dobler from Say Anything.
Yeah.
Because I think, man, that guy will give you emotional support in case you get into like some sticky shit. Like he's got a kickboxing background.
Yeah.
So shit could go down with that. But yeah, I mean, if he commits to you as a friend and a member of your entourage, man, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I'd also take Tom Hagen from The Godfather, Robert Duvall's character. I like a guy that has like, I have a specialized practice. I only represent one client. It's loyalty.
Right.
And he really puts it on the line for him. I would also put our first female in there, Becca from Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Because she's just like smarmy and sarcastic enough and just kind of like above the fray enough to interest me. Plus, it's Anna Kendrick, and we all love Anna Kendrick.
You know, it's funny that when you mentioned Becca from Pitch Perfect, and I was like Anna Kendrick, and I'm like, I'm gonna be in love with somebody in my entourage. Do I want that in my entourage?
It doesn't matter because Duvall's going to steal her away.
Probably so. You're probably right.
Lloyd Dobler, actually.
Lloyd Dobler might do it, actually.
He's going to be like with the boombox and everything.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kinda good. But my last one is BB-8. because
Yeah.
I think BB-8 is the perfect robot that is
It's like a
definitely
pet.
it's a pet.
Yeah.
And he's got attitude. It gets bonus points because it was technically voiced by Bill Hader. And
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
And he's awesome. So there's my entourage.
I love that entourage. Okay, so mine, we're going to start off with Mark Watney from The Martian.
That's a great one. Great one.
Here's a guy who can figure some shit out, man.
Mhm.
I want that guy to be on my entourage because, like anything.
He's also sarcastically funny as hell.
Yeah, exactly. And he's got all the pop culture references down and everything. It'd be great. The next one is Trent Walker from Swingers. Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
If there was anybody made to be in an entourage, it's that guy.
Seriously.
I need someone to tell me that I'm money and I don't even know it. That's what it is.
Yes.
A lot of babies.
That's right. The next one is Zoe Bell from Death Proof, who's playing herself. Zoe Bell was a longtime Uma Thurman body double or like stunt person, and then Tarantino actually starts putting her in like some of his movies as real characters and everything. And in Death Proof, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's fantastic in that. Like she's got this weird, like, I don't know, sexiness to her that, it's not like she's pretty, but that's not the thing that
It's
stands
badass
out.
sexy.
Yeah, that's the thing that doesn't stand out to you, but you need to have a badass. And I'm going to have a badass like that in my entourage.
Yeah.
And then Primo from Big Night. I'm going to have somebody who can make some fucking amazing food.
Excellent.
That's a great thing.
And it's going to be that type of food that's in Big Night.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that. That's
somebody's got to cook.
That's right. So that's my entourage.
It ain't gonna be
Nice
me.
one. Do you guys have any picks that you would throw in there?
I would take one person.
All right.
That's it. John McClane
Ooh.
would be the only person
Ooh.
that I would need. I mean, he can pick up chicks.
Yeah.
He can run across glass. I'm never have to worry about him being too happy or anything. And we can just hang out, like smoke and drink on the sides. I mean, we could get through anything.
Glass?
Nice.
Who gives a fuck about glass?
So me and you went with like small entourages. We just need a couple people. Number one, I gotta have Leslie Chow. Chancellor Claude. I mean, he's gonna be my party guy. He might get me a little bit of trouble, but dude knows how to throw down.
Yeah.
But I also need to keep Chow in check, so I'm gonna bring John Wick with me.
Ooh.
There's gonna be some fucking problems. You know there will
Yeah.
be. So John's gonna keep it down. And when I just need to kind of chill out, or I just need my wingman, I'm also went with the Vince Vaughn character, Jeremy Gray from Wedding Crashers.
Oh, yeah.
that was on my list too.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Ultimate wingman.
Yeah.
Good call.
Absolutely. These are some great entourages.
We are all awesome.
Yeah. Well, it was an awesome question. And it really sort of delivered in on that. So.
I thought a little too long. It wasn't 2 hours long, but it was probably a good 30 to 45
I
minutes.
really spent a lot of time on it. I love this question.
Next question is, who is a director that you think is extremely underrated, as well as a director that you personally think is overrated?
Okay.
You want to keep the order?
Overrated.
All right, I'll go through mine first here. Underrated is Doug Liman.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Doug Liman that kind of makes this, I don't know, maybe it's a bad choice, is he had a stretch there where he made Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Not a great movie. Jumper is a terrible movie. Fair Game is but he did Swingers, he did Go, he did The Bourne Identity, and he did The Edge of Tomorrow, which was the last. He did that's his best movie. And I don't think he really ever gets credit when those movies are awesome. And I don't know if there's a discernible style that Doug Liman has. Maybe that's the reason he doesn't really like. We talk about James Wan. You can tell what a James Wan movie is every time he does something. Doug Liman, you can't really tell.
No,
I mean,
those movies that you just listed are way different from each
they're
other.
completely different, and it might be just that he doesn't have a discernible style, so he doesn't get credit when those movies are great. But I'm sure he gets all the blame when those movies are bad. Yeah. The overrated director, we mentioned him earlier, and I haven't seen Devil's Backbone, but Guillermo del Toro, I think, is one of the most overrated directors. I like the movies that I see. I just have never been blown away by them. I know he's like almost a product of like Harry Knowles back in the mid 2000s, basically, because he built this motherfucker up, and I talked about Pan's Labyrinth and how much that kind of like, it didn't hit me like every critic in the world did. I still liked it. I thought it was visually very good, but stuff like Pacific Rim, that's he's in Hellboy. These are good, these movies that have good stuff in them. They're just never great to me, and he feels like Tim Burton to me a lot of times. A lot of visuals, but not real good storytelling and all that. And I need to see Devil's Backbone, and I need to see a couple of other stuff.
So it's much better.
Didn't he do Chronos too? There was another one that's that people talk about. So yeah, those would be my two.
Well, you mentioned my pick for overrated. I think I think Tim Burton is way overrated. Yeah. Even though he's taken some hits over the last, starting with 2001's Planet of the Apes, actually, which thankfully we didn't mention until now. But he's been kind of on a downward spiral until the kind of mixed reviews for the Miss Peregrine movie. But I think just in general, like he started off so strong and so promising and everything that it just really became way overrated. He became too dependent on that style, where there's not that substance to what was in his early movies.
I'm going to say something that's never been said before.
All right.
Tim Burton is the Jeff Fisher of directors.
Wow! Now, if anybody's not a sports fan, they have no idea what you're talking about. They have no idea. But that is dead on.
Jeff Fisher had a successful way of playing football as a coach that he continues today.
8-8 every year for decades.
Swinging right for the middle. That's right.
Always, whenever, he's never in jeopardy. Even if he gets fired in Los Angeles, someone's going to hire him.
Someone will hire him because he has a resume that's like, look at all these wins.
Yeah.
You forgot all those losses.
Yeah. Well, it's even Steven there. Yeah. And then for my underrated, I'm going to put Ben Stiller on there because Ben Stiller... There's two things about it. First of all, I think he makes really funny movies. We've talked about The Cable Guy ad nauseum. We talked about some of his other things, but there's that, and he's good at it. But the other thing is that actors typically don't get the credit that they deserve for being great directors. I mean, it took Ben Affleck forever to be recognized as an actual competent director, let alone a really good one. Mel Gibson was kind of the same one until Braveheart really hit you in the gut. So I think Ben Stiller makes really good movies overall, and he's definitely underrated.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go with the guy who's not really making movies anymore today, but I just love talking about this little bit of trivia. I'm going to go with Phil Alden Robinson.
Yeah.
A man who's made, I think, 6 movies in total. But 3 of them were Field of Dreams, Sneakers, and the Ben Affleck starring The Sum of All Fears.
Yeah.
Which I actually quite like. To have such a small resume and have 50% of it be really good is impressive, but nobody knows who this guy is, right? You say the word Field of Dreams, somebody's going to know in public what you're talking about. Oh, it's that movie with Kevin Costner. Everybody's probably seen it at least once. We talk about Sneakers like crazy on this podcast, and now a lot of our fans are starting to take to it. Nobody can name the director, and it's the same guy that did both of those.
Yeah.
And then he takes like a 10-year break and makes a Tom Clancy movie. Just fascinating to me. And then overrated, I'm going with Eastwood, baby. I can't remember the last time a Clint Eastwood directed movie ended up as good as I was told it was going to be.
Interesting.
From the trailers and every single one of them hits me the exact same.
It's pretty much dead on because and the reason I think the reason why you feel that way is that Eastwood came from television, and it was basically like, all right, we're going to rehearse this thing, we're going to do it in one take, and then we're going to go on to the next thing. Very mechanical. And you feel that every time you watch those movies. There's just kind of sort of like, there wasn't a room to grow with this, was there? You just kind of want to just do this movie and move on and everything. I'm sure that's the way that Sully movie is.
Well, and his movies still get propped up for Oscars and awards consideration. Top actors all still want to work with him.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you guys, they're not watching these movies he's making. So that's my pick. I don't think the guy's terrible, but way overrated.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any picks?
Yeah, I mean, as far as underrated, we've name dropped a couple people already, but I would say Adam Wingard, who actually was one of the directors on Blair Witch. Not a great example, but he also made this movie called The Guest, which is on Netflix right now, which is a kick-ass movie, and is one of those jobs that you watch, you're like, we're probably not going to keep this guy in the genre for very long. He's a super talented guy. As far as overrated, honestly, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so sorry. But Nicholas Winding Refn.
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about,
from Drive and Only God Forgives and The Neon Demon. It's kind of like Del Toro for you. Like, the dude's talented. Like, I'm not going to say he's, not talented, super talented, really. But the amount of people that just lose their fucking minds over anything he does just blows me away. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's a very like slow type of director. You have to kind of be in a different kind of mood to watch his movies a lot of times. Drive's probably his best. And then after that, you got stuff like Valhalla Rising and stuff like that, where you're just kind of like, wow.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's visually stunning, and well, I don't know what's going on, though. And it kind of sucks. Yeah.
So I, too, tried to keep mine in the horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say most underrated horror director because normally when they do get good, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of cheated a little bit and just said maybe somebody I'm kind of excited for. Me and Luke both love this movie. Most everyone else is kind of wishy-washy on it. But Brian O'Malley, who directed Let Us Pray, it's actually his first feature-length film, and it's amazing. Like, even if you don't like the movie, everything is framed very deliberately. The lighting, I mean, the whole nine. It's a beautiful,
and
beautiful
it's got
film.
Sir Davos in it,
right? And it's got one of the craziest examples of just a tiny little hint here, and then if you dig with that little hint, there is this insane subplot that's it's there, but you would never know unless you just kind of really pay attention to how he's framing things. So I like that in my director.
It's funny trying to watch Let Us Pray and Baskin back to back because it's all about cops and basically punishing them for their sins.
As much as I like Baskin, I like Let Us Pray more.
Yeah, no, Let Us Pray is a better movie.
Yeah. And here's where the 10 to 15 actual horror fans that are listening right now, I lose them. But maybe lose Luke a little bit too. He might disagree with me a little bit. But Eli Roth,
motherfucker.
Yes.
No, I'm with you on this one.
Yeah, Eli Roth.
I'm the same way.
Always celebrated.
Yeah,
it's not
definitely.
that I don't hate his movies; they look good. I just don't get the point in them all the time. It's weird, and I feel like he often loses the direction of what the film's
Didn't
supposed
he
to
make
be.
Green Inferno?
Yeah, and see that's the thing. It turned up to be this weird comedy kind of thing, and it's like. Thought you were making a weird cannibal movie.
He came on Reddit and did an AMA before that movie came out to promote it. And sorry in advance, Mr. Roth, I don't know you personally. He came off like a total... He came off not well in that Ask Me Anything thread, where he was very confident in that everying he did was awesome.
Yeah. And that's part of my problem, I think.
Yeah, and he has a core fan base that eats
does.
his shit up the way you were talking about with this other guy, and I don't get it.
Can you blame him, though? I wonder what it's like to be Eli Roth, where you make like one movie and Quentin Tarantino salivates all over you and then says, hey, come and help me with this Death Proof Grindhouse stuff and all that. Let's be friends.
Be
and all
in my Nazi movie.
Yeah, be in Inglourious Bastards. All this other stuff. That has to blow you up pretty much in your mind.
That doesn't mean that I can't rag on him for staying there.
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I sit there and I look at Eli Roth. I'm like, imagine being that guy. You know, I made one movie and suddenly Tarantino's your best bud. You know,
seriously,
that
would be awesome, man.
Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree with that.
It's interesting to hear you guys talk about it because, you were saying, Andrew Wingo, we're not going to keep him in our genre for a while. And that, do you feel possessive, like a basketball player, on your team? And you're like, this guy's going to be a super free agent
you would love to.
else.
You would love to be like, no, you have to stay here, man. You can't go anywhere. But it's just not the reality of the thing.
Whenever we have people on the show, I mean, that's inevitably one of the questions that we ask. So what are you doing next?
Yeah. You're gone, right?
Yeah. Well, that is going to be the SinCast for this week. We'd like to thank Luke Rodriguez and Jacob Hopkins from Modern Horrors from coming today.
Woo! Thank you guys.
And just go on and see their stuff. They got a 3-pronged attack with that YouTube podcast and website thing.
Killed someone with a trident.
Yes, exactly. That's correct. But thank them for coming today. But keep going to SoundCloud, telling us what you think about the episodes and everything. We enjoy your feedback. But this is Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, Barrett Scher, Luke Rodriguez, and Jacob Hopkins. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
We're going to put the sin in this Cinemasins podcast.
Like we haven't done that.
There's a lot of sinning in this room.
You might have heard us say the phrase "pop the cherry" on this studio. That doesn't mean what you think it does.
Oh no.
When you first asked if we'd want to be on, I was like, yeah, and I got thinking, I was like, oh shit, me and Luke have like unfiltered, filthy mouths.
Yeah.
At the time, and I was like, let me just verify. And I listened to like the latest episode at that particular time.
Yeah,
I go, oh, okay.
I'm
you're
good.
I was like,
You gotta go pretty hard.
Shit,
to
yeah. I was like,
top
damn.
Yeah. We were at the beginning of all this. We were like, let's not swear too much. And then suddenly that became untenable.
There was a swear episode.
Yeah.
We kept it kind of clean.
I think we started that way as well, but then the first time that I think we referred to an asshole as a balloon nut, I think everything changed from there.
We have an upcoming joke. I was just going to talk about the apple and its two buttholes joke that we have in this.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Oh my god.
That's right. That is
And
correct.
now I'll never see an apple the same.
That's it's Da Vinci Code, right? And so the whole movie they're talking about this orb, and at the end they reveal it's an apple. And so I wrote this way over the top. An apple is not an orb. It has a top butthole and a bottom butthole. The bottom butthole has 4 knuckles, and the top butthole usually has a stem. But it is not an orb.
Da Vinci Code's going to be one of the most outrageous videos we've ever done.
That shit is bonkers.
Yeah.
It's a crucifixion joke.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
I can't believe I wrote it. I can't believe you guys kept it in.
Yeah.
But I basically said, "Be crucified would be preferable to watching this movie."
Oh, no!
It's a little more flowery than that.
Yeah.